Welcome, Lund loyalists, YouTubers watching on John Lund Unleashed and the Bay Area Sports Collective, those watching on X and Instagram and listening on Apple and Spotify. It's John Lund Unleashed and JohnLundUnleashed.com. Brought to you by 𝐟𝐸𝐵 Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center. Right now featuring amazing stem cell technology. For all your pain and for the guys, check out the latest in low T and testosterone therapy to make you feel like yourself again. 𝐟𝐸𝐵 Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center at 𝐟𝐸𝐵Cosmetic.com. Now, all juiced up and ready to go. Here's Johnny.
Don't worry, we have a plan. We have a plan, is what John Lynch says. Welcome to it. We got to talk fast today because it's tourney time, as Ralph used to say. Tourney time. Tourney time. The first day, Thursday, Friday, and then the weekend, and I have the chalkboard up there for episode 93. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to go over the chalkboard in a minute if you are new here. If you've stumbled onto the show, which John Lund Unleashed, longtime sports radio talk show host, 𝐾𝐨 in San Francisco, 95.7 The Game in San Francisco, all over the country for about 30 years, unceremoniously let go, I don't know, in November at some point. We've started a community here on YouTube, on Twitch. We have Instagram at John Lund Radio and X. But also LinkedIn, we are here. We're trying that. Facebook has been very good. We've gotten good returns. John Lund on there, John Lund Unleashed. So however you're watching, welcome, welcome, welcome. What would be incredible is if you went over to the YouTube page, because we have a lot of stuff geared towards the YouTube page. John Lund Unleashed, please follow. Please set those alerts. I have something coming out later today because I'm going to be leaving and watching the tournament. Of course I am. So we got a lot of stuff coming up. So I've got something pre-released, pre-written at JohnLundUnleashed.com. So all these places I tell you to go and all these websites and all these social media sites and everything could be accomplished in one fell swoop. All you got to do is go to JohnLundUnleashed.com. The show is actually running there as well. And we have archives. The show right now is running archives of YouTube shows, of podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcast, plus the blog. And I have a new one dropping today in regards to the 49ers and this whole situation. All you got to do is do a little bit of digging, and I'll tell you about John Lynch's plan in a minute. And I'll tell you about where this whole Brandon Ayuk thing emanates from, and it shows you today's media where this thing actually started and where it's going and what people are talking about and everything. We forget where the fire starts sometimes, and I just did a little bit of tracking backwards, and it kind of makes me laugh. So we'll get into that. Tons of different stuff. I embarrassed myself. I got a good caboose pistol today because I kind of embarrassed myself by taking a picture of something that was that was a frozen food confection that I have to ask your question. Is it just me? That's why it says at the bottom, caboose, is it me? We'll get into that conversation in a second. But welcome, welcome. Please subscribe to all those nice things. Bay Area Sports Collective as well. So John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. We're closing in on 5,000, which is absolutely great. I think as of this morning, we were like 4,600 in the community. So thank you so much for that. And Bay Area Sports Collective, let's grow that. We just started that. My show is on there, John Lund Unleashed, as well as Tom Tolbert and Polymac and Creative Tony. So make sure that you hit that up, Bay Area Sports Collective on YouTube. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Before we do roll call and say hello to everybody in the chat room, it is episode 93. Rank the Madness. That's how we're going to start. We're going to talk about madness today. I have one bracket tip for you. And a good friend of mine, Mitch Moss, who actually used to be my producer, his wife, it's a long story. I'll go into it in a minute. Let's do the bracket first, but I got a really good story on that. But one bracket tip. John Lynch says, we have a plan. Sorry, that's cut off a little bit, but that inch is Lynch. Lynch, we have a plan. Brandon Ayuk rumors, where they actually started, which is kind of funny. The way that media runs today, that's how it is. More mocks, and the reason I say uh-oh is the guy I want is never going to make it to the 49ers now. Rodgers on TV. This is pretty hilarious. If he's forced to retire, I can't imagine him being on TV, but the networks are like, yeah, no. The NBA bracket has changed, which I like. The T-Wolves have helped out the Warriors because they've lost to two bad teams in 2 consecutive nights, which is nice. To give the Warriors a little bit of breathing room, the Celtics were sold for big money. That's a discussion point because teams like the 49ers, the Giants, selling 10%, so they actually have some equity taken out and they get some cash to hang out with. The Hicks story is Jordan Hicks. We'll hit that real quick. New deals, and that's a little microphone right there. Great. Some friends of mine are getting new deals, which I absolutely love, and we love them, so I'll tell you about that. And then the caboose is It Me? This is something that happened to me yesterday at the grocery store. And I actually was looking around. It's kind of embarrassing. I'm like, I take a picture or something, and people are just looking at you like, what are you doing? Why does everybody have their phones out? Why are you taking a picture of that? What is wrong with you? Because I'm definitely like anti-phone all the time. Like, I don't have it like this. I'm just, people get mad at me because they're like, well, you don't text back fast enough. And I'm like, I do not want to have that thing surgically attached to my wrist or hand. I just don't. And so a lot of times I just leave it home. It's good for your mental health. They tell you to, leave it at home, leave it in your car. I don't take it into the gym, for example. I don't do anything. Like I take anything into the gym, but I on purpose will leave it. I'll leave it charging on my bedstand, whatever, because I just don't want to have it. I don't want to be accessible 24/7, 365. I just don't. There's nothing that important. There's not life or death going on right now in my life. So I kind of leave it back. So anyway, it is a peeve of mine when I see people do stuff like that, like taking a picture of your food at a restaurant. Like, come on, man. Honestly, I've never had a meal, I don't think, that good that I'm like, I have to take a picture of this. Click. Look at me. Look at that wonderful presentation. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get into all those things. It is a great day, though. And I'm going to ask you a question at the beginning. Rank the madness in a second. That is where we're going to start today. We have an absolute ton. And we got to get out of here before the game starts. So we've absolutely got to talk fast today. And I love getting the interaction. By the way, if you're new, random at the bottom, you're like, what is that? What is random? Well, random just means that I go over to this to the comment section and anything can throw me off track. You know me with my ADD. But the comparison or analogy I like to use is you're driving down the road, kid in the back, you're taking a long road trip, kid in the back has to pee, you go off, you get back on. You grab some McDonald's, you get back on. Like, I try to make them quick. I try to make the pit stops quick so that we can stay to the chalkboard. And by the way, Walter, I guess, if Walter is here today, texted me yesterday because he's using a contraption where you can actually knock the stuff off the board. So I've got to work on that because I think it'll help people who are jumping in. I don't expect, this isn't necessarily linear where everybody comes in at the same time. Like, we try, we say 8 a.m. Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. on Saturdays, when news breaks, this, that. I'm not sure that, everybody's in at the same time. So it's like, where are you on that board? So I'm trying to get better every day. We're trying to get a little bit better, figure this thing out. But I think we're good. Good morning to Kyle. Hello, John Holmes. Good morning, Lund. See, that's, me. It'll send me right away. I love that word. Good morning, Lund Sandwiches. NCAA March Madness Warriors NFL Draft going to be a good day. It is. It is an amazing day. Plus, I did a little rabbit hole. We're a little rabbit holing, and you know what that means. Hello, Jeff. Good morning to you, my good friend. Hurley Bird is here. Who else is here? We got everybody everybody's at. Fiend is here. Fiend. Kid Icarus. What a great word. Iron Maiden did a song. What was the name of that song? It had Icarus in it. Icarus is a wonderful word. Kid Icarus. Very nice. What else do we have? Sports Girl for Life. It is always great to have you in here. Vernon, good morning, my friend. Dom. Hello, Dom. Dom is putting that thing together. What's the pizza joint, Dom, where Creative Tony and Polly Mac are going to be? Because I think I'm going to go down there too, right? John Lynch meltdown. I don't know necessarily, Steve, if it's a meltdown, but we are going to discuss. And this is where I did the deep dive onto what his plan is. And okay, how good is this plan? And actually, I'm going to give you a little teaser. That's what I wrote about today at johnlundunleashed.com. So I'll release a little video and lots of fancy as I do on that thing. I go down a rabbit hole, so I start putting up charts and all sorts of stuff. I mean, I'm no David Lombardi after all, but, I'll put up some charts. And so, I like myself a chart. Look I have a plan. I mean, look at that plan right there. It generally goes. I mean, it might pop around. We might jump around a little, but I generally have a plan on the show. But then, like you said, I get thrown off. I see something funny or something good. And I think it's got to the point where people are like, watch this, I'll throw them off. And then I just go right down that whole thing. So that's what happens. Joy is here. Crawdad. Welcome, Crawdad. Don't know if I've seen Crawdad, but if I have, and I have acknowledged you, I apologize. But Crawdad, it's great to have you in the house today, my friend. John Harder, good morning to you. Jazz fan, I think I said hello to you. Steve, I did say hello. Rockin' New Era. Hey, yo, Nate is here today. Keeping the faith. Wonderful to have you. And I will acknowledge others throughout the show. All right, let's get going, man. All right, here's the deal. This is a question out to you. So I can't answer this. I cannot be an expert on this. Sometimes majority rules. Sometimes we're democratic, but I'm just curious. This is just pure curiosity on my part. Where would you rank March Madness today? You know, I have a buzz in me. And what's funny about March Madness, I think most people are like this. We're in Northern California. Yeah, Jason Kidd was really good. Yeah, Jaylen Brown played here. Yeah, the Lopez brothers played at Stanford. I mean, there's, we can go. There's a Mike Montgomery coached at both. Women's basketball, Tara Vanderveer, of course. We have a decent college basketball tradition with these schools. There's no doubt. Kevin Johnson went to Cal. Jason Kidd went to Cal. I mean, there's not some Sharif Abdul-Rahim went to Cal. I mean, there's some good players who've either come through here, and if you're talking about Oakland and guys like Damian Lillard and Gary Payton, and of course the great Bill Russell went to USF, and so we've got a college basketball tradition in the Bay. Lots of good players have come through here from a high school standpoint. A lot of professional college players have played here, but we don't. And maybe this is my fault, and we under discuss it, but I don't think so because we do a lot of the research and we know what the numbers are, especially nowadays. We just don't talk a lot of college basketball. So I'll call it the funny part, the interesting part, whatever term you want to use, is that, and this is a lot of people around the country. The Atlantic region of our country is college basketball mad. There are certain parts of the country that are college basketball mad, but the NFL is nationwide, right? The NBA is worldwide. Baseball is here and Japan, and there are pockets of baseball, but it's not worldwide, but certainly the US and Japan love baseball. So, college football all over the country, but certainly in the South, just absolutely bonkers and mad. The NHL, Canada, and then pockets of places in the US. I worked in Detroit. They love their Red Wings there, Philly, New York. There are certain pockets in the country that certainly love their hockey. Basketball is certainly regionalized. College basketball is regionalized. And so my question in that roundabout way is, where do you rank March Madness? Where do you rank these first couple of days, Thursday and Friday? And then, of course, the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, there's always going to be buzzer beaters. Hopefully there's a team that comes from nowhere that you never heard of. I mean, I was looking at my bracket today, and I'll show you mine. And the only reason I'm going to show you mine is maybe you can screenshot it, and then later you can laugh at me. And this is the Final Four that you should not take. And that's what I'm doing. I'm doing a favor, so you can probably eliminate these four teams. And I'm going to show you, because my wife and I quickly did brackets this morning for our yearly dinner challenge. So it's okay. Whoever wins, your choice. I'll drive or you'll drive or whatever. I have no response. That person has no responsibilities, doesn't have to pay for dinner. That's kind of, fun. And then I do the other bracket, like I said, with my friends that I've been doing for 25 years for a few $100 a piece. So it turns out to be a decent amount of money, but I don't think I've won that thing in 10 years. So, I mean, I'm basically donating to the cause. But my question to you very simply is, this day, the opening of March Madness, which everybody anticipates, but not as many people are into. But then like Super Bowl Sunday, I don't know, you could call opening day of baseball, whatever your favorite thing is in sports, right? Opening day in baseball, Super Bowl Sunday, an NBA Finals, a Game 7, a deciding game, whatever it is, a World Series game versus March Madness. Like, where is it? And I think it's so unique in that because most people, not most, I don't know what the percentage is of people filling out a bracket, but just there's a buzz. And when I used to work in a real atmosphere at work, now I've always worked. Here's where I'm skewed and why I'm asking you this question. Because as an adult, I've never worked in a place where, I'm doing a show and I'm looking at the TV. That's what I'm doing. I'm a sports radio host, a pre-half post guy. I've done all this stuff. So it's not like I work in a bank where it's like, hey, Johnson, what are you doing? You watching the tournament over there? Are you going to work? Like, I've never worked in that kind of an atmosphere. As an adult, I've never worked in a bank. I've never worked as a place where you had to put on a tie, 9 to 5, focus, and maybe you could peek over there and, somebody's got a TV, or now, of course, you can look at your phone or whatever the case, because there are so many platforms that it's delivered on. But I've always been able to I'm talking about it or it's been on and whatever. So where do you rank today? Because I did wake up with, more pep in my step and a buzz, and I can't wait to watch this stuff, even though college basketball wise, and when I was growing up, when guys would stay 3 or 4 years and you could really relate to players and they would be in the tournament time and time and time and time again. And it's just kind of how it is. And look, I'm not get off my lawn guy. It's the way it is. I don't even think kids should have to play in college if they don't want to. I mean, if you're confident in your abilities, and I think a lot of these kids just go one and done because they have to. Cooper Flag of Duke, for example, he should have just been able to go to a prep academy to get him ready for the NBA. Get a bunch of former players in there, the way that the NBA is played, the physicality with which it's played, understand the NBA game so that his rookie year, he's hitting the ground running. Duke isn't about getting Cooper Flag ready to go to the NBA. They're about winning as many games as they can and potentially winning themselves a national championship, which a lot of times can be one and the same, but sometimes it's not. So why not just go to a prep academy, get them ready, and, like the G League Ignite or something. Just get them ready. Just, you don't want to go to college, that's fine. Just go, I think they should be able to go straight to the league, but whatever. But the tournament was great when I was growing up because you knew a lot of these guys. And they played in the tournament year in, year out, and made it for better basketball. Plus, you didn't have the upsets. Maybe that's one of the things that is the upside is if you have a mid-major or something, and these guys aren't going to be playing in the NBA, and all of a sudden they've played 3 or 4 years together, and it's kind of how international basketball works, where these guys have continuity and they've played for a long time together versus a really young team that might be more talented, but they just haven't gone through this before. And all of a sudden this mid-major has been there for 2-3 straight years with the same guys, and the people call it an upset, and it's not really an upset. So that's the question for you. Where do you rank this? Is this a top 3? Is this number 1? Are you jacked up? Are you, stirring up Bloody Marys? As we're what? Hour or so away from, tip off in the NCAA tournament. I have a lot of great stories from the tournament. I covered my only Final Four that I covered. I've covered numerous games in the tournament. But the only Final Four, 1998, and it was surreal. Rick Majerus in Utah, which I was just like, who are these guys? Which featured, it was the year after Keith Van Horn left, actually. And it was guys like Michael Doliak and Alex Jensen, who's an NBA coach now, and Andre Miller, who Andre Miller that year was incredible. But they ended up beating, if I remember right, Anton Jameson and Vince Carter in the Final Four and took on Kentucky and lost in the final. But it was just, I'm sitting there, and this was in the old Alamo Dome, so there's like 1 million seats in there, and the media just, they throw you way, way up there as a local media guy. And it was just surreal because they're like, from Centerville, Utah, Alex Jensen. I'm like, these guys are on the court with Vince Carter. What, are you kidding me? Anyway, so rank it, if you would. Here is what you should not do, because I just threw this together, and you can ridicule all you want. This is who you should not pick for your Final Four. And I'm not a Duke fan. I'm not a Duke fan whatsoever, but I think they have the easiest way. And who knows? I just started watching college basketball about a month ago. I always go with Tom Izzo. I think Tennessee's a 2, Duke's a 1, Michigan State's a 2, Texas Tech is a 3. I didn't overdo my upsets. The key is upsets early, and then you go to the blue bloods late. That's not exactly blue bloods, although Duke and Michigan State are blue bloods. But anyway, please don't pick that Final Four, because that is probably not going to do anything for you right there. Like I said, when it comes to brackets, when it comes to gambling, it's just not my bag. But I try. But I'm probably going to owe my wife dinner. And it was funny. She came in today and she was talking about how she picked her. I'll leave that on there if you want to screenshot it and then ridicule me later when those teams lose. But my wife came in today and I said, "You got your bracket done?" And she said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Yeah, I did it based on, like things that would appeal to me." And she goes, like, for example, I took Arizona a long way because of George. And I go, "George goes to Arizona State." And she's like, "Oh." She's like, and I'm like, "Did you take Utah State?" I go, "They're in the first round." I said, "Did you take them? They're in a 7-10 versus UCLA." And she goes, "Oh, yeah. But right. Well, my brother went to UCLA. So I took, that's her logic, is like her brother went to UCLA. Arizona has Arizona in it. George goes to Arizona State. Like, and she'll smoke me. She'll absolutely positively smoke me. So that's just how the tournament works. Like, I always go back and I look at like a Jay Billis, which, by the way, before you fill out your bracket, Tolbert had Jay Billis on either yesterday or the day before, I think it was. And you can check that at Bay Area Sports Collective when you subscribe. So there you go. That is my final four that you can make fun of. That is my thought. Let me jump out there just because I asked the question, because I'll move on. Oh, one bracket tip I've got for you too that I've got to throw up there real quick. Where do you rank it? That's what I want to know. What is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? Oh yeah. Terrible. ASU terrible in the NCAA tournament. Not as bad as my boys at Utah State. They finally won last year. But no, I don't think Cooper Flagg's coming back. I mean, if you're going to be the number one pick, why would you question it? Why would you go back? You're only going to have an injury or something. So no, I did not guarantee a Duke victory. I absolutely did the opposite. And I'm not a Duke fan, and that pains me, but you got to take your heart out of it. So that's the one thing. You got to, when you bet or when you do brackets or whatever, like, you just can't, no heart. It has to be cold and calculated. Cold and calculated. Jed York, cold and calculated. That's what you do when you fill out a bracket, which I haven't won with my friends in 10 years. So let me just be the person who tells you that. But anyway, I would love to know what your interest level is, how excited you are, all those kind of things. If for some reason, and this is what's great about it, is it's legalized gambling. And for some reason, and I know I have all those pieces out that talk about how production drops today and tomorrow, and then, you're off the weekend generally. But production Thursday, Friday drops off. And for some reason, because this is ingrained in our society, kind of like the Super Bowl is, a lot of bosses, they just kind of look the other way, like, whatever. And like I said, because of the way that technology is nowadays, we used to like huddle in someone's office, like somebody had a TV. Nowadays, it's like, whatever. I don't need to go. I don't want to go in that guy's office anyway. I don't like that guy. So I can just watch on my phone. Don't even have to fake it anymore. Good morning. Good morning. The 49ers 2025. Good to see you. Ooh, that's not a bad one. I forgot. That's a big one now. I love the NFL draft. I don't move off my couch for 3 days. I don't want to admit this, keeping the faith. I did the same thing. I just love it. And my wife, that's the one thing I will say, and I think I've told you this before, that is the one thing where my wife understands a lot of the stuff. Like, hey, I got to watch this, honey. And she's like, I get it. Hey, honey, I got to watch. Yeah, I get it. The draft, she just looks at me like, so let me get this straight. They're announcing names, okay? They're going down this thing and they're announcing names, and that intrigues you for 3 consecutive days on the couch without showering, brushing your teeth, or shaving. Why? How? And I'm like, yeah, I know. I can't explain it. It's, it's complete. It's just huge drama for me. I think it's the greatest thing. And she just looks at me like, you're a dope. And she's generally right. I think she's generally right. So, okay. All right. One tip. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I am not going to tell you how to fill out your brackets. And when you come complaining to me later, I've told you 10 times to this point, and we are 22 minutes into the show, to not take my Final Four. So if you do, that is at your risk. But I do have one thing I want to show you, just because the guys from Vegas Sports and Information Network, and I'm so stupid, I actually did be right when free agency started and things were going downhill for the 49ers. I went on with these guys, recorded it, was going to post it, never did. And it was a really good segment. So I still might post it, even though it's like 10 days old. But anyway, my friends at Vegas Sports and Information Network, VSiN. If you go to VSiN.com, this is a good way to do your bracket. All right. This is my only tip from a guy who's terrible at brackets. I get it. What happens is, if you just blindly look at your bracket, 12 is going to be to 5, this, that, and the other, just look at the point spread for them. So that's really the way. So you can fill out your bracket all you want. I know maybe you don't want to get that detailed into the whole thing, but when you look at a seeding, a 13, okay, a 1 at 16's lost to, a 16's beaten a 1 one time, right? Maryland, Baltimore County against Virginia, whatever it was. I think I was right. So there's some obvious ones. 15 has beaten a 2 on occasion, but there's some easy ones there. But if you're in a predicament and you're not sure who to pick, just go to the lines, because it doesn't mean, because of the way that the selection committee puts somebody, put a number next to somebody, it doesn't mean that they're any good. And so you can start looking at some of these things, like my mighty Aggies right there against UCLA are 5.5-point dogs. I don't love that. But, you start looking at some of these numbers. Oh, my God, 23. But that's a number 1 seed. So, anyway, this is the one that everybody, by the way, that everybody loves. The 12-5 here is Colorado State, who's won 10 in a row. And what's interesting about that is, look at that. That's a 12. Memphis is a 5. Colorado State's the favorite. So that's kind of what I'm talking about here. is that people look at a 12 and a 5 or something like that, and they go, well, I got to pick one. Which one's going to be? Well, if you're going to pick one, and again, don't look at me, but the 12 is actually favored in the 12-5. So that's kind of a cool place to go if you haven't figured out your brackets yet, is to go to a place like 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐽. They have a lot of great information, but the lines are the best thing to do. Look at the lines, and you're like, well, that's not too big of an upset, 13 versus 4. So does that always work? No, but it's a smart way to look at it if you're like one of those people who are like, well, I'm going to be aggressive because why go chalk? Because that's not going to win me anything. I'm going to go really aggressive and look for some upsets. Maybe they come through, maybe they don't. Maybe you do maybe you do multiple brackets, and one of them is like an upset bracket. So just look at the lines. I mean, that's the best thing that anybody's ever told me before from a guy who doesn't win brackets. I know, but looking at the lines will kind of clarify things versus looking at seeding. Seeding can be misleading. What am I, Dr. Seuss over here? But anyway, I'm just telling you, look at the numbers. Just something to look at. All right, so there you go. How did we get to best serial killer? Good morning, Bill M. It's very nice to see you. Let's see. Got into not showering already. Let's see. Who do we got? Let's see. Okay, there you go. Oh, no, I haven't. You know what? What is I have not done that. Have you voted on Tom's serial killer bracket? I have not. I have to do that. Yeah, the mighty Utah State Aggies, they take on UCLA. They're probably not long for the tournament at 10-7. Probably not. That's, they won last year and then they lost to Purdue, but I was just happy that they broke this string. They hadn't won in, I don't know, forever, since like 80 or something, or 82. Yeah, absolutely. Jay Billis, he goes on with Tom every single year, and it's a good piece. So check out that podcast before maybe you fill out your bracket. Maybe you already have, or maybe you got another bracket you're going to fill out. Anyway, that's where you are. Rank the Madness, one bracket tip. All right, that's where we are. One bracket tip. All right, we can continue to talk about that, but let me get to this. 27 minutes into the show, and we're down to the part where Lynch says, we have a plan for the 49ers. John Lynch says, we have a plan. Let me pop that up for you right here. We have a plan, is what he says. The plan is to replenish the core in April. Quote, this was at Stanford's Pro Day, by the way. We got this thing called the draft, and we got a lot of picks. And I think the thing that fans should know is we have a plan, and we're going to execute that plan, and we're excited about that opportunity. Niners have 11 picks. Going through a transitional year, blah, 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 blah. So we got a thing called the draft. That's the plan. All right, the plan is the draft, and I'm fine with it. I get it, and we've been saying this for days. It's not like this is a secret, this whole, hey, let me tell you a secret. What? We got a plan. What is it? The draft. Like, it's pretty obvious at this point. You're not signing free agents unless they're a special teamer, right? So unless you're a special teamer, we want nothing to do with you. I showed you the chart of remaining places, and as I often say in my favorite analogy, because I've been there, in fact, I was the king of this, oh my God, the lights are coming on at 2 a.m., and I don't have a date, and everyone's scurrying, right? Well, that's what the Niners, there's guys left who could absolutely contribute to this football team, Charles Omenihu being one, is still out there. Defensive line, you need some help. You can't rely on all rookies. There's a few guys out there. Yesterday I talked about CJ Mosley, if he's healthy. Could be a guy who could be a stopgap kind of a player. Maybe the Niners just aren't interested in that in any way, shape, or form. Maybe after the draft when guys get released, that's another way to pipeline your team. Maybe that's going to be a way that the Niners do it. But clearly, with 11 picks, John Lynch and the rest of the 49ers brain trust believe that the draft is the way to go. We know, and I'll just reiterate for you, edge rusher, defensive line in general is depleted. Replace Dre Greenlaw. Be nice to have another corner. I know they got Trey Brown from the Seahawks. He is off injured. Free safety would be nice. I'd rather have it be a veteran. Offensive line, I really think they're going to go right tackle, move McKivitz to left guard. I've told you that a million times. Probably need some depth at running back. I don't know what's going to happen with Ayuk. I'll tell you that, but they could add wide receiver to the core. Luke Farrell, who they brought in, is more of a blocker to replace Juice, but then they got such bad backlash that they brought Juice back. But he's a blocker, so they still need that second tight end, receiving tight end for George Kittle when he's out of the game. So suffice to say, that's a lot. And even with 11 picks, here's what you're asking yourself right now, because this is what I asked myself. All right, Lund, how realistic is it that the plan of the draft will work? Glad you asked, because I went down a rabbit hole today, and I'm going to post this a little bit later on. But so his plan is the draft. The draft is the plan. All right. The Niners had a lot of good drafts through the years. Give them credit. So keeping in mind that I said every position group outside of, let's see, I said, okay, not quarterback because they're going to re-sign Brock. And they have Mac Jones as the backup. Whatever you think of that. They're set at quarterback. Not set at running back, need depth. Not set at receiver, even with Ayuk, need depth. Not set at tight end, need a second tight end. Not set on the offensive line, certainly not set on the defensive line. Need a linebacker, could use a safety and a corner. I think I mentioned every position group but quarterback. That's a lot. And that's factual and actual, especially in the trenches. Offensive and defensive lines, I think, would take precedence over anything. So how realistic is John Lynch's plan of the draft? All right. I'm glad you asked. So this is largely considered, I think, the best draft in the history of the 49ers. And it just so happens, remember, the Niners have 11 picks, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 13 picks there. All right, the Niners could trade around and get 13 picks. As you see that number 8 up there, and that's considered the best draft, and there's a lot of them. I'm going to kick some of them up here for you. But in terms of quality and quantity, which is what the 49ers need, as I just told you, in terms of quality and quantity, this is the best draft they've ever had. So if you can see right there under games, now, is there a Hall of Famer on this list? Well, yes, there is. Thank you, 𝐿𝐸 in the 4th round. But there's a lot of guys who played a lot of games on this team. If you look at Larry Roberts, 89 games, 131 for Rathman, 170 McKyer, 121 John Taylor. Got a great John Taylor story for you in a second. Haley, we know. 176 Steve Wallace. Was he a superstar? No. Kevin Fagan. Was he a superstar? No, but you've got to have both. Don Griffin, a starting corner, 161. These guys played a lot of games. So they need solid players. It'd be nice to mix in a 𝐿𝐸 Hall of Famer, but John Taylor was opposite Jerry Rice. Pretty good. Tim McKyer and Don Griffin, starting corners. Tom Rathman, when fullbacks were a big deal, blocking, catching the football, all-around fullback. Steve Wallace, a starting tackle for many years. Kevin Fagan, rotational defensive lineman, if you don't know some of these guys. That's a massive, massive home run draft. And the 49ers need that kind of a draft. So if your plan is draft, and John Lynch just said to the gathering media yesterday, draft is our plan. Well, this is the kind of draft you'd have to have. If this is the only thing, okay, we're relying on the draft. How realistic is it that the Niners hit? There's 8 guys there. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 starters there. A Hall of Famer, a Hall of really good in John Taylor and Tom Rathman and Tim McKyer, and Steve Wallace was really good. He had the double helmet before it was even cool. But anyway, so that's what we're talking about here. So how realistic is it? What I just talked about, needing in every position to hit, every position group I mentioned, but quarterback, every single one of them, especially along the trenches. So again, Roberts, a defensive lineman, hit. 𝐿𝐸, obviously hit. Offensive tackle, hit. So they hit in the trenches. Kevin Fagan, rotational defensive lineman, hit. So there's 4 pieces in along the trenches you hit. Griffin and obviously McKyer, starters. You hit a couple of times in the secondary. You hit a wide receiver in John Taylor. You hit a fullback in Rathman, let's call him a running back. That's the kind of draft because it was diverse enough to where they hit a bunch of different positions and a lot in the trenches. I just mentioned 4 guys. So that's the best draft the Niners have ever had. Ever. And I'll put some other ones up against it. But in terms of depth, that's the best draft they've ever had. Depth and talent, quantity and quality. That's the best one. So in the many, many years of the 49ers, right, since 1946, this is the best draft they've ever had in 1986. And that's the kind of draft they need if the plan is going to work. That's what it is. Okay, you want to look at some other ones? Glad you asked. 81, great draft. Great draft. Helped them win a Super Bowl. But there was one position that they needed in particular, and of course, that's the secondary. Ronnie Lott's 8th overall, nailed it, Hall of Famer. And then you go Eric Wright, Carlton Williamson, Dwight Hicks and the Hot Licks, they win a Super Bowl. But it's one position. Pete Kugler, pretty good outside of that. So they hit, 4 guys? Like 4 really good ones, but one position group. That wouldn't be good enough. As crazy as that sounds, that'd be a really good draft, right? Really good draft. But they kind of need more than that, as crazy as that sounds. Hall of Famer Eric Wright, great corner. Everybody forgets in the Dwight Clark catch game, if Eric Wright doesn't make that tackle on Drew Pearson, no, sorry. Great catch by Dwight Clark, not going to the Super Bowl. So vastly underrated was Eric Wright, and that's a great draft, but it's not good enough. As crazy as that sounds. Let's go to another really good draft. 91, really good draft, right? Ted Washington is your first-round pick. Run stuffer. They need that kind of a guy. Maybe that's Kenneth Grant. Ricky Waters in the second round. Are you kidding me? Merton Hanks is in that draft. I mean, that's a really, like, if you hit that draft, like if that was the draft that they hit, where you're talking about a guy like Waters and Ted Washington and Merton Hanks, that's a pretty good draft. Three guys in that draft. That's not good enough. Go to the 94 draft. I told you I went down a rabbit hole. Don't stop me now. This is a really good draft. Bryant Young goes to the Hall of Fame, 7th overall. William Floyd, Kevin Mitchell, solid linebacker, right? Really solid. You got Doug Bryant, a kicker. I don't love drifting kickers. But, he was a solid kicker. And then Lee Wood all at the end, solid linebacker. That's a good draft. You got a Hall of Famer at the top. That's a really good draft. 5 guys. No, not the food. 5 guys. Good burger. Like when they put jalapenos on it, the fries are addicting. They put so much salt on it, though, you would die. But they put those fries in a cup. But anyway, you nailed 5 there. That's a really, really, really good draft. Not good enough for this one. And then let me just hit this up, not because it's a great draft, but this is, okay, so they have 11 picks. In the 2005 draft, and this is not meant to rip Alex Smith, but they have exactly 11 picks there. You see that? See the 11 picks they get? And again, it's a good draft because Alex Smith was solid. He wasn't Aaron Rodgers. I get it, but solid. David Bass was okay. Frank Gore's going to the Hall of Fame. Adam Snyder was here for a lot of years. After that, not so much. That's not a terrible draft. That's when they had 11 picks. 2005, they had 11 picks. So that's the 05 draft. They have 11 picks this year. Not a great draft, not a horrible draft, but just to keep that into perspective, they had the number 1 pick in the draft. And that's what they did. Just okay. I mean, Frank Gore's going to the Hall of Fame. That's amazing. Should have taken Aaron Rodgers. I want nothing to do with him now. But they had the number 1 pick, so they had a massive advantage in that, and that's what they did. So, and then let me just pop this up one more time. I told you, I went down a rabbit hole. Can't help it. So let me just show you this. So, okay, you're like, okay, those are past regimes, Lund. Those are past. What about now? Glad you asked. Let's see. Here we go. So let's compare and contrast, and we've said this a lot. John and Kyle have had some pretty good drafts, right? So I'm only putting these up because I'm thinking to myself, how realistic is John Lynch's plan? If you just joined us, John Lynch said yesterday to the gathered media at Stanford's Pro Day, we have a plan. It's called the draft. Don't tell anybody. Okay, he didn't say don't tell anybody. But that's their plan, to replenish this team through the draft, got rid of a lot of excess money, are just taking it in the shorts. Okay, we're going to pay a bunch of guys who are not going to play for us. We're going to reset this thing. And we're going to nail the draft. So this is their first year. I know they could have had Patrick Mahomes. They didn't. Solomon Thomas didn't work. Reuben Foster, they traded back into the first round. Didn't work. Ahkello Witherspoon's actually had a solid career, just not with the Niners. C.J. Beathard, we all said this is time. What are you doing? Not so much. Joe Williams, terrible. And that was that whole story about he had problems at Utah, but they liked him so much. So bomb, bombity bomb. And then you get down to George Kittle, awesome. Trent Taylor, not terrible. DJ Jones, pretty good. Adrian Colbert made the team for a year. So you can't call that a failed draft because you got George Kittle and DJ Jones out of it, but the beginning could have been a lot better because you had the second pick graded to the third pick. The Bears, who got Mitch Trubisky, and they didn't take Patrick Mahomes either. So we're going to compare apples to apples. That's a Lynch, Shanahan, and company draft. Wouldn't be good enough. Even with Kittle, even with DJ Jones, that draft would not be good enough to make John Lynch's, we've got a plan, it's the draft, work. 2018. Now, this is probably their best draft, even though they bombed the second-round pick in Dante Pettis. And Kyle Shanahan learned a huge lesson about what he wants out of a wide receiver. And it's not Pettis, who they liked his punt return skills as well, but he was too skinny, didn't block. But McGlinchey, I can't call that, and I've told you this before, I can't call McGlinchey a success because he never made it to a second contract with the 49ers. The minimum a player needs to do, draft, develop, resign, draft, develop, resign. You have to resign said player, and the 49ers didn't. So McGlinchey, to me, that's not a successful pick. What it does show, though, and we'll get to this in just a minute because more mock drafts are out. Oh, boy, it's mock draft. more mock drafts are out, which means if I know that the Niners don't usually take offensive linemen early, tackles, they'll make an exception. So McGlinchey, Dante Pettis, complete bomb. But then you get Fred Warner, who's going to the Hall. Tavarius Moore, who was around for a little bit. Kentavious Street was around for a little bit. DJ Reed, you'd love to have that cut back. He's now with Detroit, was with the Jets. Like I said, Kruger and I were doing a draft show on a Saturday, and DJ Reed came on with us after he was drafted, and you'd have thought it was Deion Sanders. Marcel Harris was around for a while. Remember, they made him into a linebacker. Julian Taylor was around for a couple of years. Richie James, his biggest claim to fame is we were at the Super Bowl in Arizona a couple of years ago, and we had him on, and he did a backflip. Just stood there and goes, watch this, and goes, does this backflip when he was on the Giants. That was pretty cool. But that doesn't make him a better player. So, McGlinchey's solid, didn't sign him to a second contract. Fred Warner's going to the Hall of Fame. That's a pretty good draft, right? Would not be good enough to make the plan work. The plan is the draft. 2019 comes along. Bosa, of course. Now, maybe this is their best draft, actually. This is their best draft. What am I talking about? 18 isn't their best draft. I'm not looking at the comments, but I know what you're saying. All right, so Nick Bosa, and as obvious as it is, I don't care. Teams blow obvious picks all the time. When I hear people go, well, obvious, take Nick Bosa number 2. Some teams screw up stuff all the time. So Nick Bosa goes 2. Debo goes 1. Debo goes 2. Hurd with the injuries. Wishnowsky, whether you like taking a punter in the 4th, I do not. He's been solid. Dre Greenlaw, you can start crying now. Caden Smith, they cut and got picked up by the Giants that year. Justin School scared the hell out of me. Yeah. So as great as this draft is that we're staring at right now, unless you're watching the podcast, Bosa, Samuel, Wishnowsky, Greenlaw. That's a good draft. That's a really good draft. Bosa's a Hall of Fame type of player. Debo's solid for this organization. Dre Greenlaw, really, really good. That's a great, great, great draft. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4 hits? 4. That's not enough. You have every other position but quarterback. So the 19 draft, which I think is the best draft, I stand corrected to myself. That's not good enough. I don't even start it here. Kinlaw, complete bomb. Ayuk, we'll see. McKibbett's not bad. Warner was around a long time. Jennings, not bad. And again, this is you got 2 first-round picks here and 5 total picks. This isn't good enough. Kinlaw was a rotational piece at best. Okay, at least he would fill a hole. Ayuk, McKivitz has been, whether you like him or not, he's been a starter. I would take that right now because they need to fill positions. They need bodies on this team. Warner was a blocking 3rd tight end, and John Jennings has turned into a pretty good player. So that's, especially given that they only had 5 picks, they hit on, you could make an argument they didn't hit on Kinlaw. So they hit on 4. They hit on 4 of the 5, and at least Kinlaw, at the very worst, filled the spot. Not very well, but he filled the spot. Still not good enough. Would not be good enough given how many needs they have. Don't even get us started. I don't want to look at this. Lance, no. Banks didn't make it to a second contract. Sermon, stay away from picks. Ambry Thomas, shut your mouth. Jalen Moore, successful. Lenore, successful. Hufanga, successful. Elijah Mitchell, successful. So your last 4 picks, Moore, Lenore, Hufanga, Mitchell, ding, 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 nailed them. Wouldn't be good enough. Those are great picks. Wouldn't be good enough. 22 is brutal, except for Purdy. Purdy's the only one. Drake Jackson, bomb. The first 3 picks are bombs. Burford's been underwhelming. Womack flashed. Zakel is still here. Kalia Davis is here. Is nothing. Castrofield's never even made it out of camp. And then there's Purdy. Clearly not good enough. 23, same thing. Didn't have a first-round pick because of the Trey Lance trade. I'm not big on Jair Brown. Moody don't get us started. Latu's gone. Luter Jr. is hurt a lot. Beal's done nothing. Winters hasn't shown enough. Willis hasn't shown enough. Bell, please. Jalen Graham is still hanging around. That's not awful. I mean, there's some guys who are kind of like, fringy. And then, of course, last year, and before we even look at this thing, I would take last year's draft this year in terms of the impact level. Now, Pearsall, I think, is going to be better. Green's going to be a starter. Pooney's a starter and above average. Mustafa's going to be a starter. Garendo looks like the number 2 back with a guy coming back from an Achilles. Cowing is special teams only. No. So you still had in last year's draft 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players, 5 plus Pearsall we don't know yet, but I'll even count him. I mean, that's 5 or 6 players. So they need that kind of a draft, but even better than last year's draft. So that's what we have. So in a roundabout way, and I understand I just did this in a roundabout way, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, as we well know, but I just kind of wanted to reiterate it, have had a certain level of success in the draft. And certainly in after the first round, none of their drafts, as good as maybe one or two may have been, would suffice when you have as many needs as the 49ers do, and they really need quantity over quality. Like, I would take 7 or 8 solid players over 3 great players right now because they have that many needs on this football team, and that's their plan. And that's where I'm scratching my head. And I even went through the history of the best drafts of all time. And the best draft of all time for the 49ers, 86, this would be what they would have to hit to make John Lynch's plan of, our plan is the draft. I don't know why I'm whispering that. It's so dumb. But anyway, Roberts, Rathman, McKyer, Taylor, Haley, Wallace, Fagan, Don Griffin. And I'm not outside of Haley, and well, I'd say Taylor too, and Rathman. And I'm not talking like, wow, right? But just there's a lot of solid players in that draft that contributed to winning a championship there. Really an amazing draft right there. And that's the kind of draft they would need for his plan of the draft to work, in my mind. That's the one. And that's the greatest one they've had in their history. And John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have hit on, 3-4 guys, certainly in the mid rounds, like I said, but that is going to make the plan tough. Again, we've got this thing called the draft, and we've got a lot of picks. And I think the fans should know is we have a plan, and we're going to execute that plan, and we're excited about this opportunity. 11 picks in the draft. Clearly, that's the plan. They're putting all the eggs in the basket of the draft. And they're not even, it doesn't look like, unless I'm missing something today, it doesn't look like a Charles Amenahu would make a hell of a lot of sense, can play inside, outside. Chris Kusarek knows him. Maybe they have contacted Charles Amenahu and he doesn't want to come back, or he's waiting for a better deal, or maybe somebody gets hurt or whatever. At this point of free agency, kind of what's the point? He'll get a deal. A guy like C.J. Mosley, I know he's banged up, but there's a connection there with Robert Saleh. You need some kind of insurance. I know that the Devontae Campbell thing didn't work out. Eric Kendricks almost signed with the Niners is out there. Safety-wise, a guy like Julian Blackmon, it makes sense. They did talk to him last year. Had a good season with the Colts last year. They need to add a couple of those guys for insurance purposes so they're not absolutely, positively desperate come draft time. And we have to go, because what that does is when you go into the draft and you're desperate, that's when 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 Kinlaw happens. Because you're like, oh my God, we need a defensive tackle. We don't have a defensive tackle. What are we going to do? Oh, we got to take Kinlaw. No. Tristan Wirfs is there. He's going to be really good. Nope, not Tristan Wirfs. There's no way in hell that the 49ers had 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐞 Kinlaw ahead of Tristan Wirfs in the draft. Even though they were at 13, they traded with Tampa. Tampa took Wirfs at 13. Niners took Kinlaw at 14. There's no way the Niners didn't think Tristan Wirfs was better. There's just no way. Kinlaw was unproven, had an up and down career, had one dominant year at South Carolina. Tristan Wirfs had been in the spotlight for a long time. Really, really good player. There's no way, but they were desperate going into the draft. That's what it is. They're desperate. It's like going shopping while you're hungry. And you walk out of there and you have ding-dongs and Twinkies and junk upon junk and Lucky Charms. And it's like, they always tell you, don't go to the grocery store hungry. Certainly don't go stoned and hungry. That's because that's what I just described as stoned and hungry. But you don't want to go to the grocery store hungry because you're just like, whoa. And you always make all these bad decisions. That's the draft when you're desperate for a position. Like right now, they are desperate for defensive linemen. Desperate. So that's when you make a dumb decision and you go, wait a minute, there was 24 guys that were given starter grades by Daniel Jeremiah. You can wait on defensive linemen, but you got to get multiple defensive linemen. And as I just pointed out from the 86 draft, you don't have to get the superstar guys. Just get you've got a Charles Haley mixed in there, but you're getting a bunch of solid guys. Rathman, solid. McKyer, solid. Taylor, really, really good. Wallace, solid. Fagan, solid. Griffin, solid. These guys were members of championship teams that started or played big roles. So if you could throw in obviously a Hall of Famer, but if you throw in a Haley and then a bunch of solid guys on top of that, now you're cooking with gas. As far as John Taylor, let me tell this story just before it blows out of my mind here. So you see John Taylor, the 76th overall pick of that draft, the great John Taylor. So we're doing pregame. And John Taylor's in there, and we're in this tiny studio, right? And at the time, maybe this is 2 or 3 years ago, Taylor is 57. And he looks, some of those guys have told you this. I mean, they played football, man. They look bad. They look ragged. They look bad. They look like, woo. And, I'm the poster child for that. So I can tell you. So, they've lived a rough life. They did everything they could to get into a football field. Some of those guys are limping in. It's not great. John Taylor comes in at 57. You'd have thought he was 27. Dude looked amazing. He was in with a couple other guys. I'm trying to think who he was with. Anyway, from that same era. And he's great. He's telling stories, and he's so funny. And it's funny because John Taylor, as we all know, maybe you didn't because you're a little bit younger, but John Taylor didn't have a whole lot of need for the media. Didn't speak a lot. Wasn't really a big fan of the media. But since he's been post-career, great speaker, has been on numerous podcasts. Just a really good guy. So we get done with the interview. It was phenomenal. And I went out to this. There's this tiny little area. So when you go outside of the studio, it's in the stadium. It's in Levi Stadium, but at the bottom floor, if you've ever seen us in there, and you can look through this window, and there we are like monkeys in a cage. And you're standing it. And so we go out of that little studio, and there's just kind of like a standing area. It's not very big. It's bigger than the studio I'm in right now, but it's not very big. John Taylor's 57. We start talking some stories, the Super Bowl and everything. And then whoever he was with, wasn't his wife, because she's probably sick of this. It was whoever it was he was with from that same era. I can't remember the guy he was with. Started saying something about how John Taylor at 57 could do a standing somersault. Could just stand there and then all of a sudden just go and just do a somersault. And I'm like, you could not. And remember, there's a bunch of people around. There's not a ton of space. Maybe there's like 2 people length. You know what I'm saying? Like if someone was standing next to me right now, maybe 3. But it wasn't a large area. And it kind of goading him on a little bit. And John didn't want to do it. But John was gregarious, having a good time. And finally, out of nowhere, he had just gotten kind of enough of it. And it happened so fast. I couldn't even believe it. He's standing there at 57 and just does it in just like that. Like, you know how guys, they make a big deal. I think, did Debo do this? When the guy would stand behind, they would do the victory formation, and Tyreek Hill did it. Tyreek Hill would stand behind the victory formation, and he would do a flip, and everybody thought that was a big deal. Well, Tyreek Hill is like in his athletic prime. John Taylor's 57, and right in front of me, as fast as I could go, whoa! He does like a backflip. I'm like, dude, I want to have my phone out. I was just telling you about phones. I want to have my phone out. I wanted to see that. And John Taylor's like, no phones, bro. And he just smiles and walks off at 57. So could you imagine the type of athlete? Here's my point in saying that. Could you imagine the type of athlete John Taylor was when he was in his prime at the 49ers? My God, man, the guy's 57, just does a backflip like out of nowhere. It's not like he has a run up or it's like, okay, he just stands there, goes blah, 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 shoo. And I'm like, what just happened? Amazing. Anyway. So that's where we are. We have a plan. What do you think of we have a plan? We have a plan. What do you think of John Lynch's plan? What do you think of the plan I've just showed you? You'd have to have the best draft in the history of the 49ers, which I believe is 86. And there've been a lot of good ones, a lot of bad ones too. But wow. There's some good responses on here. All right. No, it's unreal. It was cool. I'm not overselling this thing. Some things I will oversell. I'm not overselling that. Just crazy. Anyway, that is the plan. What kind of confidence do you have in the plan? Roger Craig is the greatest. He is the greatest. And I'm so pissed that he's not in the Hall of Fame because, to be honest, I'm not going to say he's gone into hiding, but Roger used to come on all the time and he would talk about the rock and roll marathon down in San Jose. And he was involved in the community so much, and he might still be, but he's just very quiet because he's one of the few people that will admit, yeah, it's a big deal to get in the Hall of Fame. Before they get in the Hall of Fame, like they're all trying to downplay it because they don't want to be disappointed by it. And the fact that not only did he not get voted in because people just thought, well, that's enough 49ers, but also the fact that now the senior committee gets guys in like Drew Pearson. Nothing against Drew Pearson, but come on, dude. Roger Craig's not getting in. Like, it's insane that he's not in. And Tim McKyer, just a great one. I am not a GM legend. All I'm simply saying, hello, 49ers Red Zone, is that that's a lot of eggs to put in the basket. That's a lot of eggs to put in the draft basket. And here's the thing, too, is the guys, maybe it takes a year or two. They're all not going to hit in day one. You know what I mean? Hi, Jay 49er. They're all not going to hit in day one or year one. Maybe it takes a little bit of time. Hi, Jay Papa. Say it for me, brother. Say it for me, please like and subscribe. Where did beer goggles come from? Where did beer goggles come from? I've really cut my beer goggles down over the years. When I was a teen, or not a teen, like in my early 20s or in college or something, beer goggles, I don't know, 3-4 days a week. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. Pine Needle says, I know John made a defensive comment about the draft being the plan, but I understood it was just part of the plan and they were not done. I don't believe he meant that was the whole plan. The only thing is, Pine Needle, is what else you got? I mean, I've shown you guys this time and over again. There are ways to fortify the roster at this point. And maybe, like I said, a Menahu is out there. That would make a lot of sense. He can play inside. He can play outside. He knows the Niners. Mosley makes sense. Linebacker gives you insurance there. So you're not desperate going into the draft. You have to draft a linebacker. And I told you, college linebackers, great going forward. Not as much against the pass. They're going to get taken advantage of, at least in that first year, most of them. So that's a problem. The free safety thing is, I'm not a big Jair Brown guy, but it's also an adult in the room. You know how they signed Gibson a couple of years ago? That's what I'm looking for. Not him in particular, because I think he's done. But somebody like that for an extremely young secondary. And like I said, Blackman of the Colts had a really nice year. They brought him in last year. They had a face-to-face meeting with him. I don't know how that went, but clearly they didn't sign him. So somebody like that, so that I'm just simply saying, I'm not looking for the greatest players out there. I'm looking for contributors. I'm looking for insurance. And there's enough special teams guys on this team, all right? So, yeah, you fix that, except for Moody. But you signed a ton of special teams guys. I get it. Not a bad idea. And I get it that you're pissed that you have to pay all these guys that who are not going to play for your team this year. I understand that. I really do. I understand the financial reset. And you and I have talked about it a million times. But you've got to bring in some insurance so that you're not walking into the draft starving. And you're walking into a steakhouse going, I want this and this and this. And you're like, Spalding, I'll have a hot dog and a hamburger. You'll have nothing like it. Like, just get an appetizer before you walk into the draft. You know what I mean? A couple of appetizers. Drink a bunch of water. Like, relax. You don't panic. Like, even though as much as they need defensive linemen to fill things out, if the right guy's there, you can't go Kinlaw again. Or the right tackle, which I would love it to be Membu, which we'll get into in a minute. It looks like he's going to go 4 or 5. Don't trade up. Don't freak out, because that's what happens. Oh my God, we can't get that defensive lineman. Whoa. And it's like, meanwhile, there are better guys on the board. You can't think that short-sighted like they did in Kinlaw. And maybe they learned their lesson on that. I don't know. But I'm just simply saying that as you look at things now, this had to be the plan the whole time. And if it's not the whole plan, I understand that. But the bottom line is, this is the position they put themselves in. There's not a whole lot left out there, in free agency. I get it. Don't want to overspend in free agency. Totally understand that. But they've got to have, maybe it's not the 86 draft as I showed you, but I'll say this. They've got to have their best draft ever. And they've got a couple of good ones. They've had some bad ones, but they got to have their best draft ever to compete this upcoming year. So there you go. That's the rabbit hole I went down to. We have a plan. What do you think of their plan? All right, this one's an interesting one. So we're down to the point where Aiyuk rumors NE. So that is Aiyuk rumors New England on the chalkboard. Aiyuk rumors New England, as we are almost an hour into the show, 59 minutes into the show. And welcome once again. I like to try to do this hourly. Welcome to everybody. Steve says, Menahu is no. Menahu is not coming here. Well, a Niner, he committed a big sign, got charged with domestic. Yeah, I think you're right about that, now that I think about it. So that just takes another guy off the board, and I don't know defensive lineman-wise if there's anybody left. Hang on a second. I thought I was going to sneeze. I know I will the minute I start talking again. Told you. I'll have to edit that out of the final copy of the show. So the way media works now, and the way it used to work, is that you had to have a source, even had to have a second source. I started as a sports writer, and you had to have a second source. Your editor was like, we're not going on some whim. We're not going on some stupid thing. We're not going on. A lot of times what's happening nowadays is we don't even know where stories originate, but we just run with them. And so over the last couple of days, and it's just, I told you this yesterday, we've gotten deep into Aiyuk so many damn different times, but we got into this conversation yesterday. I said, look, if they trade Aiyuk, it's another $18 million of dead cap. And maybe Jed is just like, can't do it. They owe him a payment on April 1st of $22.8 million, and they probably don't want to make that payment. But they signed him. They were the one who were desperate. Kyle ran up the stairs. A lot of things you can't undo in the NFL just because all the dead cap and you spread the money out over a lot of years. And it's not a great situation for the 49ers. He's injured. I've told you, we've talked about this. His stock is as low as it's going to be. Plus the other team, which fans don't often talk about, they just think my team makes a trade. My team gets a free agent sign. My. If you look at the other side of it, many times when we, and I'll include myself in this is not you, this is me too. And we get all excited and we want to make a trade and we're like, we're going to trade this and we're going to get this and they're going to. 9 times out of 10, the trade that you propose as a fan and I propose as a fan will get the other general manager fired on the spot. Like, we're going to do this trade and this trade. Yeah. What does the other side think of that? You're fired. That's it. That's what I think. You're fired. We don't often think about the other side of things. So as part of that, the team acquiring Brandon Ayuk, just think about this. You're acquiring Brandon Ayuk because you're desperate. You're New England, which is the rumor right now. You're New England and you're desperate. And you got your quarterback, Drake May, a good wide receiver, which they don't have. They have the worst skill position group in the league, but they have the 4th overall pick and they can move around. Even if the McMillan kid at Arizona ran a 4.48, maybe you don't take him at 4, you can still move around. The draft is coming up. As John Lynch said, our plan is the draft. The Patriots aren't winning anything anyway. You're in a division right now. Buffalo is absolutely dominant. You're not winning anything. So why would you be so desperate as to we got to have Brandon Ayuk right now because he's the missing piece? He's not the missing piece. Again, I'm thinking like New England for just a second. We're going to have a lesson on how media works nowadays. And it'll be a fun one, I swear. It's not going to be anything negative. But I'm New England. I'm Robert Kraft. I've won Super Bowls. I'm not dumb. So I'm going to take on $4 and $100 million. I need a wide receiver now for my quarterback. Brandon Ayuk's not going to be ready now, probably midway through the season. I'm going to put up a 4th-round pick, maybe a 3rd-round conditional if the guy plays well. So $27.5 million for a guy who's broken down, and I need a receiver now for my quarterback. And I'm going to take on that risk. It just doesn't sound like it makes any sense whatsoever on the surface. I don't know anything about the inside. I'm not telling you about anything that I know or have heard. I'm just saying let's use a teeny bit of logic because I know it's fun to go, Brandon Ayuk's getting traded. He's going to the Browns. He's going to the Patriots. Where's he? It's fun conversation. It really is. And I'm not saying that he may not just because the Niners might be that pissed off about the contract, about getting pushed to the wall, all these different kind of things. They might just want to get rid of him, but you have to unload him on someone. 2 to tango. I've heard. I've tangoed by myself many times. By myself, if you get my drift. But anyway, supposedly it takes 2 to tango. It certainly does to make a trade. You can't just trade him to nobody. Can't just give him to somebody. It's not going to happen. So it's got to take somebody else. So people have talked about Cleveland. People have talked about New England. The latest one is New England. So let me just focus on New England. So first of all, that's New England side of things. Need a receiver now. I'm going to pay $4 and $100 for this guy. $27.5 million a year is what I'm going to assume. He's not going to be ready until midseason. I'm the Patriots. I'm not in a championship window. So why wouldn't I just draft a wide receiver, let him grow with my quarterback who I drafted last year, get skill position players as they come to me, not rush it again, hungry going into the draft. Oh, I'm starving. I got to do this. I got time. Like, I'm fine. We're not winning the division. Buffalo's ahead of us. Miami's ahead of us. I mean, Jets probably aren't. But, I'm not going to do anything. I can be patient here. I know Robert Kraft's getting older and, he probably wants to get back into things, but I don't think he's that desperate. Like, he's not going to be ready till the middle of the season. If you're New England, why would you do that when you have the draft coming up? It just doesn't make logical sense. Now, maybe they'll do a stupid thing because teams do it all the time, but I'm just thinking about it from the other team's perspective. Now, here's the media lesson, okay? This whole story originates from a guy named Greg Bedard. And Greg's respected in the business. He's a longtime NFL writer. And he started a business, a blog, a website, all this kind of stuff a number of years ago. And it's been fairly successful. I mean, it's in Boston where people just go absolutely bananas. You want to see sports radio ratings? WEEI in Boston and 98.5, the Sports Hub in Boston, at 2 sports radio stations. And they are number 1 and 2 in the market all the time. Like, people just go absolutely, this. Boston is one of the best, if not the best, sports town in America, just based on the interest in it and how crazy the fans go. So they're into it 24/7, 365. So this guy, Greg Bedard, who's written for the NFL for a long time and knows Boston has been doing this sports rag for a while. Probably 5 years. He's well respected. I'm not saying he's not. I'm not saying that he's not well connected. But this is where the story originates from, right here. He writes a piece. Before I pop that up there, I should have had the whole piece in context. But what he writes about is it's an opinion piece, and it just talks about, okay, free agency is over. What are the needs for the Patriots still? And he talks about offensive line, offense, a lot of different things. They signed a boatload of guys because they had a ton of money. So he's got a couple of charts on there. This is what they should do. This is what they need. And there's a tiny little blurb in this piece. This is where this originates from. So you got to be careful, kind of, or not, because it's fun to talk about. But he says this as a blurb in the piece. Again, this is not insight. This is not I talked to somebody. There's rumor. There's nothing like that here. He says, just like last offseason, I still believe in my bones the Patriots will find that receiver via trade, the likes of A.J. Brown and Brandon Ayuk. The latter is the best option given the fire sale in San Francisco, but he won't be ready until at least midseason after major surgery. Of course, T. Higgins is now off the market as the Bengals shockingly paid both receivers. This is where the story originates from. So all these people take this tiny little blurb from Greg Bedard. It doesn't say, I've talked to Patriots officials. It doesn't say rumors are. It doesn't say the Patriots are close to a trade. It doesn't say he's talked to anybody. It doesn't suggest anything like that. I still believe in my bones. Can I highlight this? Nope. You can see it at the top. I still believe in my bones. That's the origination of this story. I still believe in my bones that the Patriots will find a receiver. And then he throws out A.J. Brown and Brandon Ayuk. The latter is the best option given the fire sale in San Francisco, blah, blah, blah. Greg Bedard is not nobody, but it's based on I still believe in my bones, not based on anybody I've talked to, not based on anything that anybody in the NFL has said, not based on anything Adam Schefter has suggested or said, who's become more of a rumor monger than ever. Nothing that Ian Rappaport said. Nobody that any of these Jordan Schultz has said. I still believe in my bones. That's where this is from. I still believe in my bones. I'm sorry, I've said that for an 8th time. That's the origination of the story. And now everybody has taken that and run with it. And all these stories are rumors, Brandon Ayuk, all these different bloggers and podcasters and guys like me doing dumbass YouTube shows. Because I was like, I haven't heard this. And I'm not saying I'm Adam Schefter, but I know a few people and I talked to a few people and I know a couple of things. And I haven't heard anything like this. Now, maybe they'll trade him to New England. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll trade him to Cleveland. I couldn't find any origination of a Cleveland story at all. Not anything from anyone. It's just someone started to speculate it and they light the fuse and they just watch it go. And somebody picks it up with a tiny bit of credibility and then just says, hey, I've heard the Browns. Where? I've heard the Patriots. You mean because you have a feeling in your bones you've heard the Patriots? Like, he's got connections. I know it. But he didn't say anything about that. He says, I have a feeling in my bones that the Patriots will go after a receiver. And Ayuk's the obvious one. He doesn't detail how it could happen, what they would give up, whether they would take on 4 and 110 of Brandon Ayuk, $27.5 million a year. He doesn't say anything like that. There is no details whatsoever, except for he feels it in his bones. And that's what passes as media. And I'm not get off my lawn guy. I'm not. But I'm like, that's where it's coming from. And then people pick it up, write stuff. Greg Bedard said, and then they link to it. And I linked it. And that's what I found is the origination of the story is a guy who says he's got a feeling in his bones. Is this in Philadelphia? Are they freaking out like this? Because it mentions A.J. Brown in the exact same way it mentions Brandon Ayuk. So are people in Philadelphia? Because I couldn't find that. People in Philadelphia go, oh my God, A.J. Brown's going to New England. I didn't see that. So, look, I understand where there's smoke, there's fire. And so I always follow up on stuff like that. And because something gets brought up again and again and again, I think to myself, okay, there's got to be something to this. But it's not Schefter. It's not Schultz. It's not Rappaport. It's not Mayoko. It's not Barrows. It's not Cam Inman. It's not anybody with any kind of credibility whatsoever. And it's not even Greg Bedard. And I'm not even ripping on him. He's credible. He's been covering the NFL for a long time. He's been, I think, successful with this Boston thing that he's doing. He's been doing it probably 4 or 5 years. He just says, I have a feeling in my bones. And then somebody writes about it and says, Brandon Ayuk's going to the Patriots. I still believe in my bones the Patriots will find that receiver via trade among the likes of A.J. Brown and Brandon Ayuk. The latter is the best option given the fire sale in San Francisco. Okay. That's fine. And you know what? Maybe it'll come up in the draft. And by the way, people who are saying that somehow you're going to take a broken Brandon Ayuk at the lowest stock that he's ever had as a professional, his stock is as low as it's ever going to be, that somehow the Niners are going to take Brandon Ayuk in the 11th pick and get to the Patriots pick at 4. Okay, that's jumping 7 spots. Just again, I'm sorry that that the truth is going to ruin a good story, but I have a feeling, I have a saying I like to say, don't confuse me with the facts. I'm confusing people with the facts right now. And this won't come out because retractions are like the stories on 1A, the retractions on like 9A. So it's not like this is ever going to come out. But first of all, so wherever the story started from, that's where I tracked it back to. That's silly. So there is no Ayuk rumor. There's no Ayuk rumor at all. That's not even a rumor. That's a feeling in my bones that they're going to get a receiver. It could be anybody in the league. And I doubt the Patriots would spend $27.5 million for a broken down guy. But anyway, okay. They could. But come draft time, they're not going 11-4, moving Brandon Ayuk, who's worth at this particular point being broken down, maybe a 4. I mean, what the Patriots or any other team is telling the 49ers, he's a net negative at this point. Like, you're calling him an asset. He's not an asset because he can't play until midseason. What do teams want? Now. We live in a microwave society, especially in sports. What are you going to do for me right friggin' now? I want to make a trade for Jimmy Butler because I want to get good now. That's what I want. I don't want to get good at midseason. I don't want to get good next year. I want to win now. And New England's not in a win now window. So if New England was in a win now window, I could see them going, okay, you know, we get them at midseason. That's okay because our record's going to be 6-2. And then we get Brandon Ayuk back, and that'll be like making a trade at the deadline. So we're going to be in great shape. New England's going to win 5 games next year, maybe. Pretty good defense. Absolutely atrocious offensively. They don't have any weapons, and that's where Brandon Ayuk comes in, and people do put 2 and 2 together. I understand that. But they don't look at the details oftentimes. Now, again, the one thing I don't know is how pissed Jed is. Just, good, this Ayuk thing is killing me. I hate when I have to stamp this check. Like, maybe he's that angry. But you have to have another team, and I don't see where New England, it makes any sense for them. Because they're not in a win-now window. And I think they could probably do better. And, oh, by the way, that whole thing of the draft, to go back to John Lynch, we got news for you. The Patriots have one of those too. They're drafting, and they're thinking to themselves, I could just get a cheap guy in the draft. I still believe in my bones. Anyway, all right, rant over. I'm just saying, that's where it started. Brandon Ayuk's getting traded to the Patriots. Did you hear? Because Greg Bedard said, I still believe in my bones the Patriots will find that receiver. That's where it started. All right. We're at Ayuk Rumors NE. More mocks. And what that means is that the guy I have my eye on, and there's a lot, like we talked about, there's a lot of different directions the 49ers can go. That's the one thing is when you need everything except for a quarterback and a backup quarterback, and you could address every other position on the roster. Now, with the 11th pick, are they going to address running back? No. With the 11th pick, are they going to address receiver? Probably not. With the 11th pick, are they going to address off-ball linebacker? Probably not. There's not enough value there, even if you like 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐷 Campbell from Alabama. With the 11th pick in the draft, are they going to address free safety? Probably not. There's a kid, by the way, big kid from South Carolina that I really like that's like 225 pounds. Love. Probably not going to address it. Max Starks, really good free safety for Georgia. Would fit perfectly. I doubt they go that with the 11th pick. I think they're going to go trenches. If the right guy is there, and the one guy that I've like been stomping my feet for, because he could play right tackle, McKivitz can move to left tackle, and this guy would be the heir apparent to Trent Williams. So you've accomplished so many things for the future if you pick this guy. But now it's starting to come out that this guy is going to be the top tackle in the draft. They're saying that he's past Will Campbell. Armand Membu of Oklahoma. Surprised it shouldn't be. I think this is Yahoo, because I've put up every stinking mock draft there is. I think it was yesterday. It says it shouldn't be that big of a one considering how many boxes Membu has checked off throughout the draft cycle. Legit case to be the first offensive tackle off the board. Pats need an O tackle. Membu has the skills and talent to play either right or left on the line. So what's starting to happen is in the draft process, and we see this all the time, the risers, this guy is great tape. at Missouri, and then his athletic profile of running this 4.91 and his splits and all these different things, and he's super athletic. A lot of people are actually comping him to Trent Williams. And he's 6'4", about 322 is what they mentioned. I'd love to have him fall to 11, but it's just not looking like it. Because that would accomplish so many things as you're looking at the draft and you're saying, okay, how many things can we knock out here? Well, by drafting him to play right tackle, you're making that better. You're making left guard better with 𝐬𝐸𝐫𝐠, and you've got the heir apparent to Trent Williams. Boom, boom, boom. Like, that's just like skipping a stone across the water, and you're like, boom, nail this, nail this, nail this. So I'd love that, but it's looking like that guy's too good. Now, here's something I want to ask you. This is kind of a, I'm not going to call it an ethical question. It's not ethical. But what it is, you know how we're paying for everything? You look at, you have those services now that come out and say you're paying for a gym and you're paying for cable and you're paying for this and you're paying for that. Nobody's paying for cable anymore. You're paying for all these different things, and they can just make it so that you don't have to pay for those many things. Well, not only do I pay for a ton of different things on TV, much like you know, like YouTube TV, and you got to have Netflix, and you got to have Paramount, and you got to have this, and you got to have that. So you got a million of those going on, right? I'm going to cut the cord. And then you have a million things you're paying for. Same thing from a standpoint of reading. Like The Athletic is great. I pay for The Athletic. I pay for the Chronicle. I pay for a number of different things so that I can read them because I think it's important for what I do for a living. So it's kind of that. But then this morning I jump on, and like I said, there's not a mock draft that I could get by. Like I must click on mock draft. So I click on about every mock draft around, right? But this morning, and Todd McShay, of course, used to be with ESPN, and they've got one of those things. I think Mel's mock draft behind a paywall. I think it might be. I mean, what is it? ESPN Plus. I think I pay for ESPN Plus. Oh God, man. I think I pay for ESPN Plus too. And so anyway, there's some places that are paywalls. I still don't get it. When you want to just have a gazillion eyeballs on stuff and then you sell the advertising to that, you say, look at this. Look at Mel's mock draft. It has 8 gazillion views. And then you sell that, right? Rather than putting it behind a paywall. No sales guy, but would seem to make sense. But whatever. So this morning then I come across this. I like Todd McShay. I've always read Todd McShay's stuff. I love mock drafts. You know that. So I click on it. I click on the mock draft and it says, get your draft pass now to read more. And then it says, buy draft pass. At the bottom there, you see that gold button, buy draft pass. And I didn't. I said, that's it. I've hit my line. I like Todd McShay. I really like Todd McShay when he's on ESPN. I see right there Jackson Dart on the left because it's all about quarterbacks, right? Where's Jackson Dart going to be? In the middle, that's Cam Ward. On the right, of course, that's Shedeur Sanders. So I'm dying to click on this thing, right? Oh, where does he have the quarterbacks going? Who are the Niners going to pick? Does he have Membu going down? Where's Will Campbell? Like, what? Hey, could Carter slip to the Niners? Like, is it? I want to click on Todd McShay. Todd McShay and Mel used to at the same time release them, and then they go back and forth. They'd go on TV. Oh, Mel, you're such an idiot. Oh, Todd, what is with your orange face? You're such a moron. Like, they just go back and forth. Todd, you look like, what's with your lobster face, Todd? But anyway, they would go at it. It was awesome, but I'm not doing it. That's my line. Sorry, Todd. Mock 2.0, 3 quarterbacks in a trade in round 1. I'm dying. I'm like, hey, come on, let's go. I'm clicking on this thing. Nope, can't do it. Not going to do it. Crazy. I don't know what happened just there. I got to get out of there. Yeah. So anyway, I just was going crazy clicking on that thing. So anyway, I'm not going to do it. That's my line. I'm not going to click on Todd McShay. I'm pissed about it. If anybody's got Todd McShay, if anybody's paid for draft pass, if anybody's paid for Todd McShay's draft pass, what is that, Ringer? Is that Ringer? I don't know. But anyway, that was my line. I'm not going to ever see Todd McShay's mock draft. I think I'll live. But anyway, that's my line. Had it. Let's see what else. All right, it is episode 93. Rank the Madness. I've told you, where's March Madness today? Where do you put March Madness on your, Mount Rushmore of great sports days? The opening day of March Madness. Is it Super Bowl? Is it World Series? Is it opening day? What is it? Because to me, if you did it right, and I've done this before, sitting in Vegas at a sports book on the Thursday and Friday, like right now, if you were at, I don't know, can somebody look up? Oh, I can do it. God, I'm really lazy. Hey, Siri, what is the weather in Las Vegas today? Hold on a second. Ooh, 71. That'll work. Not great. 71 and partly cloudy. But for example, I don't know if you could do better in sports than Circa in that big pool, and they got the giant TVs out there for Thursday and Friday of of March Madness. If it was like 75, 80, something like that. What is tomorrow in Vegas? Hey, Siri, what is the weather tomorrow in Las Vegas? Let's see what she says here. See, tomorrow's even better. 75 in Vegas. I'd like about 80, 85. I like warmer weather. But let's say it was 80 in Vegas Thursday, Friday. And I haven't done Circa, but I've been at a sports book. I told you this yesterday at one of those like in MGM, and they put you above everybody and you're like, hello, and you're having food delivered and you can do, you got the bets on your phone and all that kind of stuff. And you're watching everything. Plus there's like horse racing in the corner. So if you're really a degenerate, you're doing like 19 different bets at one time and you got all the different things going on. So I have done that. And I got to tell you that it's probably the best thing ever. And I've been at a casino for Super Bowls and things like that, done paid promotional appearances for different kind of things. But being in a sports book on the Thursday, Friday, or that whole weekend, actually, of the first weekend starting Thursday, ending Sunday, talk about exhaustion. It's pretty great. It's pretty good. So anyway, Rank the Madness, bracket tip I showed you before. Look at the lines before you make that one. Like I said, Colorado State is a 12, and they're favored in the 12-5. So, oh, that's an upset. A lot of times it's not. You just got to look at the numbers. Gave you Lynch. We have a plan, which is the draft. And I went through all of the drafts from the Niners' best in 86 to the best Lynch and Kyle drafts. They'd have to have like an 86 draft to make his plan work. 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐷's New England, if you're just joining us, this is where it comes from. And everybody freaks out. Just like last season, I still believe in my bones the Patriots will find a receiver. Not any kind of attribution to any kind of rumor or talking to anybody. I believe in my bones. And then that lit a match that absolutely went crazy amongst YouTubers, podcasters, and everybody says that New England's going to get Brandon Aiyuk based on somebody having a feeling in their bones. That's how media works today. More mocks, oh no, and that's Membu, who is getting too good. That's that. And I think that's where we are. Real quick, I might as well just do this just to finish off NFL, and then we'll hit some NBA stuff because the Warriors got a break last night, so I want to hit you up with that. But where is this thing? Maybe I took that. No, I didn't. Our long national nightmare could not even start, let alone be over. Apparently, Aaron Rodgers, if he doesn't get a gig, which it looks like he'll get a Steelers gig, but it looks like he would not go to TV. It says, insufferable Aaron Rodgers reportedly facing little interest from NFL media partners. Why would anybody put Aaron Rodgers on? Why would anybody? ESPN might, just because he's so disliked that they might put him on just to be a complete heel because he is a complete heel. And I'm sure that when he goes on the McAfee show that they probably get pretty big numbers. I could be wrong there. I need to contact somebody at ESPN, but I bet he gets big numbers when he goes on McAfee. So I'm not talking about McAfee if he were to retire to go on there. I'm talking about like, would he be an analyst? Would he be in a studio? Would he be, Tom Brady-ish? Would he be like, that would be one. And I talk about this, you and I talk about this all the time. I don't know that I would say that I have an obsession over broadcasters, but because I do this for a living, I look at it differently. And I love to talk about broadcasts and different things. And Tom Brady and Pop and I always used to talk a lot about broadcasters. I'm not sure if people like it or not, but in terms of Aaron Rodgers, I couldn't get to the volume fast enough if he was doing a game like that. That would be one where a lot of times people are like, I don't care. I don't care about the broadcast or whatever. The game's the game. It's not going to make me watch it or not watch it. There are very few in my history. I've said this before. Like when Bill Walton was on a broadcast, it wouldn't matter if I cared about the game. And a lot of times Pac-12 after dark games, Cal's taking on UCLA. I don't care. Stanford's taking on USC. I don't care. But if Walton's calling it, Oregon's playing Oregon State. I don't care. But if Bill Walton was calling it, I would definitely watch it. And there are certain guys like the other way. If like that guy's and it's gonna, I'll watch it, but I'll just turn on the volume. I find myself doing that more and more lately. But in regards to Rod, I couldn't get like as an analyst. There's no way I would watch. There's just no way. And now that I think about it more and more, ESPN probably will hire him. But anyway, now they're saying no. I wouldn't want him. Give me your thoughts on that. All right, big news. Let me go out to the chat line because I'm going to move off of football here real quick. And do remember, if you, let's say you wanted to hear about the Warriors, and you're like, has Lund not gotten to the Warriors and we're an hour 24 into this thing? Do remember that you can go a couple of different ways. You can go back right now and do this if you're on YouTube, or you could wait till later and I'll put the chapters up and then it just shows what I'm talking about, what time I'm talking about it, and you just click right on those and it takes you to wherever you want to go. So that's kind of a cool feature. You do that, John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. please do that. All right, I'm going to move off the Niners real quick. So anything that I discussed there, from we have a plan of John Lynch to Aiyuk rumors and where they started from, which is laughable that fuse has been lit, and now all these people are going, he's going to New England. Did you hear? Yeah, based on a guy who says he felt it in his bones. More mocks. Oh no, Rodgers TV. So we just went over all that stuff. Let's see here. Yeah. Yeah, you may dislike Brady. Here's the thing. That's a great point, Francis. You may dislike Brady because he won so much. But, it wasn't like I was watching games going, I hope Brady sucks. I'm hoping he's good, and I think he got better. But Rodgers is just like, get out of here, man. There's no way. There's no way. But because ESPN is ESPN, and like I said, I worked for him for 10 years. One thing I do know is they don't care. I mean, Rodgers could become the Kendrick Perkins, and they would love it. And then I'd just have to turn ESPN off. It just wouldn't work. Yeah. Let's see here. I set off my Siri, or your Siri. What did I do? Hi, BSD55. What did I say? Did I say, hey, Siri? Remember that time that, what was it? Greg said something, and this guy got so pissed because Greg said, hey, Siri, like, kiss my ass, or I don't know what it was. And essentially what happened, like the Siri did something. I think it said something dirty, and then he had kids around. I don't remember the details. Maybe you do, but you might have been watching that day or listening that day. But yeah, Greg said something, and then it set this guy's thing off, and I think the Siri might have cursed or whatever it was, or the Google thing or whatever was in someone's kitchen. They got all pissed, and they actually called it in. Fresh pot. I don't know when are those guys on today, by the way. Check Bay Area Sports Collective. I'm not sure when they're on because they're not going to be on during the tournament. And I'm not, I can only go till 10 because I got to get going on the tournament. You know that. Let's see. Oh, you're talking about this with McShay? It says you can read 2 to 3 standard articles for free each day. No need to subscribe. Is that true, Mr. Box? I got to check that out then because I do want to click on it, but I'm just not doing it. Just not doing it. Okay. Yeah. You see, that's what I'm saying is, yeah, Mel Kiper, I think you can always read those free because a gazillion people read them. And I would think then that would make them a ton of money versus putting it behind some paywall. Like, I don't understand. Like I said, look, don't get me wrong. The money part of this thing, like I know how to yip yap and talk and all this kind of stuff. The money part is like sometimes, and I would just think logic would tell you that I'd rather have a gazillion people look at that stuff and not put it behind a paywall. I think I could make more money that way, but I could be totally wrong. We're not having a feud. What's the Lund Kruger feud? Fill me in. We're not feuding at all. I love Kruger. In fact, like I said, we're run. Oh, I see what you're saying. Kruger's running with that rumor. Look, man, I get it. Like, I totally get it. I totally understand. I'm trying to click on this, but it's not letting me. There you go. No, I love Kruger, and we're doing a Friday night baseball show. I told you that, and we're still looking for a name for it. And it's just going to be a fun, giant show, not getting all pissy, drinking a bunch of beers, having a great time. We're going to do it every Friday night. Kruger and I we've been friends forever. It doesn't mean we have to agree on everything. He knows that. We're cool that way. It's just like this room. You don't have to agree with everything I say. You can call me a jackass. All I'm simply saying is I just tried to find the origins of the rumor, and I did. And now I'm like, oh my God, that's the origins. It couldn't have been funnier. A guy is saying, who's got credibility, which is why people ran with it. He says, I have a feeling in my bones. That's what it is. It's not I talk to somebody. It's I have a feeling in my bones. I'm like, really? That's what we're on with? The whole internet is going bonkers. This is the next 49ers big move. I've heard about it. New England. Okay. Based on a guy who has a feeling in his bones. So I'm just, every once in a while. Look, I love running with that stuff, man, because you know what it means? And I've learned this doing this show. Man, it's just about, ooh, did you hear this? Did you hear that? Oh, there doesn't have to be. It's not like when I started, and I'm not get off my lawn guy. There had to be 2 sources. Yeah, yep, you got the one. Where's the other one? Like, editor's like, no. Like I said, I was a sports writer, and I found out stuff, and I would go to my editor and go, hey, I've only got one source on this, but it's a really, really good one. Nope. Can't do it. Like, no, obviously it was from a guy like it is now, but like it's from, it's from Brandon Ayuk's mouth. And Brandon Ayuk said he's going to, okay, that's a good one source. But normally speaking, if you had insiders, you had, connections or whatever, someone within the organization, you had to get another one. And not now. It's Greg Bedard saying, I have a feeling in my bones that it's going to be A.J. Brown or Brandon Ayuk or somebody, they're going to get a receiver. And it was like, whoo, light the fuse. We don't know where this came from. It's like, okay, thanks. All right. There's that on 49ers stuff. And if you want to go back, you can. If you want to hit me up later on the chapters, that is totally cool. We'll post that up later. It is John Lund Unleashed. And by the way, we took the ads away. Hopefully they're not running. I did that for one day, and then people just went bonkers and were like, hey, don't be running ads during the show. So I quit doing that. It was actually YouTube doing it. I just tested it out, and that was not good. People were not down. So we quit doing that. So hopefully that's not happening today. Rogers TV is where I left. NBA bracket change. You knew I would get to this, didn't you? NBA bracket change. Good news for the Warriors, which is the Timberwolves have lost twice. They lost to the Pacers and they lost last night. They've lost 2 games to teams they shouldn't have lost to. So when we look at the schedule and we play the schedule game and go, oh, never know. So a couple of things happened. The Lakers beat the Nuggets last night. Luka was great. And the Timberwolves lost. So now, and I'll show you standings in just a second, but now the Warriors have a little bit of breathing room. It doesn't mean it's a ton, but it's 31 losses versus 29. So they got 2 and 71 games there, 40 and 31, the Timberwolves. So 11 games left, and you got a 2-game in the loss column lead over the Timberwolves to keep you out of the play-in. So if you look back here, playing is Clippers, T-Wolves. I don't want to play the Clippers. James Harden's hot for a night. Norman Powell, Kawhi Leonard. Like, you want to mess around? You got to be in the 6. That's all I'm talking about. And then you look at the Suns up here in the 10. The Suns stink. I know that. But they knocked the Mavericks out, and now the Suns play the Kings. I don't know. Kevin Durant's hot. Booker's hot. They play really well for a little bit of a stretch. And all of a sudden now, you lose in a 7-8 against the Clippers. Then you have to play, the Suns for some reason. And all of a sudden you played the Clippers and the Suns with veteran championship guys like Durant and Kawhi, separate teams. I understand that. But you play the Clippers, Kawhi's out of his mind. You lose. You play the Suns, Durant and Booker out of their mind. You lose. And all of a sudden you went, what just happened? I thought we had Jimmy Butler. I thought we were talking about winning the West. What the? And now Steph Curry's asking for a trade again. So you want to stay out of the 7. I may be being a little dramatic, but still, the Clippers are a veteran team with good players. The Suns have Durant. That's all you need to know. You don't want to play those teams. So you're 2 games in the loss ahead of Minnesota, who have lost 2 games in 2 nights to 2 bad teams. So well done. But the bigger part to me here is that now that the Nuggets have won, they move up into that upper bracket. So they play the 4-5 against the Grizz. They would win that. They would take on the Thunder. I think they beat the Thunder. As good as the Thunder are, veteran Nuggets team. I don't want anything to do with the Nuggets. We know that. They've beaten the Warriors 9 times in a row, including the other night, whereas we know they didn't have Joker, they didn't have Murray, they didn't have Brown, and they beat the Warriors. I want nothing to do with them. Now, I don't know if the Lakers are much better if LeBron is healthy, given Luka and all the different things they do. Reeves is having a great year. I understand that. But between the Nuggets and the Lakers, I'd much rather play the Lakers. And if somehow you can get by that, there's the Rockets sitting there, as I always talk about. So there's been a little bit of a change in the bracket, and I think for the good. Obviously, with the Timberwolves losing twice and now having 2 in the loss ahead of them, that is nice. And then you got the Lakers instead of the Nuggets. Now, that can change. And I'll share my screen with you really quickly to just kind of show you how this thing is all working out. Let me look at standings. Where's my standings? Can't show you that. That's going to get me in trouble. That's the box score of the Bucks. What, did I not put that up there? May not have. I thought I did. I thought I had that all up there, but I didn't. Maybe I cancel that. All right. But anyway, long story short, good bracket. Good looking bracket today for the Warriors. By the way, I saw this and thought this was interesting. Jimmy Butler often gets off to good starts with his new teams. Like the Timberwolves weren't very good, so that's pretty good. First 17 with the Sixers, 13-4. First 17 with the Heat, 13-4. First 17 with the Warriors, 15-2, so even better. So Jimmy always gets off to great starts. Everybody loves Jimmy at the beginning. I am still a little leery of Jimmy, of like ugly Jimmy coming out. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry, like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and, Jimmy is like, Incredible Hulk Jimmy. At some point that's going to come out. They are going to come across some adversity, but Jimmy does get off the good starts with his new team. Thank you very much. Jimmy Harrell meter, Miami 1, Minnesota 2, Golden State 3, Philly 4. If I was doing just looking at Jimmy's hair, Miami hair that's good hair, and Minnesota hair I'd go probably 2, 3. I like that look. It's a nice look with the Warriors, and then Philly hair is not bad. I mean, all 4 are good. This is speaking from a guy with really bad hair, so yeah, that's 4. It's 4 good. 4 good, but I'd go Miami, Minnesota, Golden State, Philly, if I was just saying hair. Let me go to this. This is interesting. Just staying with the NBA real quick. So the Celtics were purchased for $360 million in 2002. This is a pretty good investment. 23 years later, they sell for $6.1 billion. Great time to trade them. They're the NBA champs. So it is the largest deal in North American sports history, topping the Washington Commanders that they just bought that team there, and they moved everything around. But this old Sixers owner, of course, or Sixers, he still owns the Sixers as well, bought the Commanders for about $6 billion, and now the Celtics topped that at 6.1. So a lot of people think that the valuation of the Warriors was just over 4, right? Now maybe the Celtics are worth more, but there was an valuation, I don't know, a month or two ago, or whatever, we talked about it, that Joe Lacob and company bought the Warriors for $450 million, and now they were saying it was worth maybe $4 billion. So if the Celtics just went for 6.1, I don't know that the Warriors would go for more than that, but they'd probably go for around that. So the rest of the owners in the league are like, oh. And so when you're selling 10% off of your team, which all these teams are talking about now for silent partners, $6 billion, that means for 10% of your team, you're getting like $600 million put in your pocket. That's not bad. That's not bad. What else do we have today? NBA bracket change, I told you. Timberwolves lose twice, I told you. Celtics sold for big money, I just showed you. This is it. So we've talked a lot, and I can get back to the NBA. Anything you want to discuss, by the way, even though we've passed it up potentially, and I will get a chalkboard eraser or something to scratch everything out so you know where we are, but we're on the Hicks portion near the bottom of the show. That's Jordan Hicks and Jeff Young, who always prints a bunch of stuff every day about the Giants, so I don't want to not give him credit because he does this every day. Like, this is what happened. And during the regular season, I can see what happened, but I'm not perusing box scores. I'm not going on the stream or anything to watch the Giants. 5 2/3, 1 earned run, 3 strikeouts, no walks. Sinker average 97.4, reached as high as 99.3. As great as all those things are, he's going to be a 5-and-fly guy again in the rotation, and that 97 and 99 is going to be like 99 and 102 if he's the 7th-inning guy. Just saying. And I know we talk about the rotation every day, but it's the only way that the Giants are going to be able to compete. And I like Jordan Hicks as a person, but I still think the 3 we already know that are in, Webb, Verlander, and Ray, have had great springs, so those 3 are done. Birdsong, I cannot fathom. And I'll be down there on an opening day, so I'll get a bunch of stuff, and we'll talk to people and things like that. I can't imagine he wouldn't be in the starting 5, but he might not be. They might think he needs more seasoning. I don't think he does. I think he's a star, and I would put him as my 4 guy. And then it comes down to Harrison, who I think ultimately, I've said this for a couple of years, ultimately I think because he's got such a limited pick selection and his velocity fluctuates, that I think that he's going to be a reliever, and I think he'll be a good one, but I think he's going to be a reliever. And then it comes down to he or Hicks or Roop. I think Roop is going to be a long guy, so I think it comes down to Hicks or Harrison. And I would like it to be Harrison. That's why I wanted to pick up a guy like Jack Flaherty or something, because I would have liked another veteran guy, and then for sure Hicks would have been a 7th-inning guy, but it looks like they're going to start Hicks in the rotation. This was who put this up? Oh, John Shea, the great John Shea, who we have to get on the show. Giants plan to start Webb and Verlander the first 2 exhibitions in Arizona Friday and Saturday. Sunday, they play their AAA team in SAC, and Birdsong, Roop, and Harrison, candidates for the final rotation spot, will all pitch. People may think this. I don't. I think they've already made the decision. I don't think it's going to be about, Birdsong was awesome again or terrible, or Roop was awesome again or terrible, or whatever the case. Now, Harrison, velocity may play a role in what they do, but we'll see. I think they know what they're going to do. I think they probably want one more look, but I don't know that that's going to be decisive. But according to the great John Shea, that's what we're going to get. Webb and Verlander, Friday, Saturday, then Sunday in SAC, Birdsong, Roop, Harrison are all going to pitch. So I don't know if it's going to come down to that, but that's what it is. So there's that on the rotation. The caboose is going to be great today, by the way. We're almost there. One other thing on, where's that thing? Broadcaster deals right here. New deals, and it's got a little microphone there on the chalkboard. You can see that. This is awesome news. Giants lock up their broadcasters with multi-year deals. John Miller is not in that picture, but he's locked up as well. So Dwayne Kuiper on the left, Kruk in the Mike Krukow in the middle, and of course Dave Fleming. on the right. And I can tell you, having done pre and post game for many years with the Giants and interacted with those guys in terms of being on our show, more so Dave, because 𝐾𝐿 and 𝐦𝐲𝐽 have a deal on KNBR in which they rotate and they go on the shows. But Dwayne Kuiper is amazing. When I was let go by KNBR and I was driving home, Dwayne Kuiper was one of the first guys to call. He's just an amazing guy. I don't have as good of a relationship with Mike Krukow, but have a boatload of respect and have talked to him many, many times. Dave Fleming would come on our show constantly and is hilarious and great. And John Miller, I don't even know what to say. If not for John Miller, during the pandemic, I don't know what we would have done, because we had John Miller on every Wednesday, Papa and I, and there was nothing to talk about. I still don't know how we got through it. We just BS'd and talk about old, ESPN Classic and The Last Dance and toilet paper and all these different things. But we would have this sigh of relief every Wednesday because there was nothing to talk about. We were pulling stuff out of our rear ends. We were doing it with smoke and mirrors. But every Wednesday we knew John Miller would come on. And that's what we did in the pandemic. We said, okay, John, it's time for John Miller. And he would come on. We started our show at 10 o'clock. I think it was like 10:50. John would come on. And we would clear commercials for an hour. We would talk to the traffic department, which is the people who put the commercials on and everything. And they plan the commercials and so forth and put the commercial log together. And we would say, look, from 10:50 to 11:50, no commercials, because we're going to have John Miller on. And we have 4 hours every single day. And we're a sports talk show. And there are no sports going on. And so John Miller would just come on and we go, hey, John. And it was just, hello, fellas. Here's what's going on. And he was somewhere. He was talking about Instagram, where he was traveling to, or, he couldn't travel a lot, but, or where he had gone, or anything. It's kind of like me on these things where you take me off sideways. Something would take him off. And literally, I would just shut my microphone off, drink a little coffee, and just hang out. And it was just, you could close your eyes. It was so cool. His voice is amazing, as you well know. And in person, he's just one of the nicest guys ever. I remember bringing George up there and said, hey, he's an aspiring broadcaster and, kind of wants to watch. And he just brought him up, sat him down, talk about, I didn't say anything. I'm like, could you give him a few tips, John? I mean, John is just like, he's just naturally one of the nicest guys, and everything you see from him is what you get. If you don't like John Miller, that's a you problem. Amazing. And same with all those guys. 𝐾𝐿 is that way. 𝐾𝐽 is that way. Dave Fleming is that way. If you don't like those guys, and you don't have to be a Giants fan. I hate the Giants. I'm an A's guy. I'm a Dodgers guy, whatever. Like, those guys are unbelievable. Not only are they great broadcasters, all four of them couldn't get better guys. Could not get better guys. The guys, again, you might not like this or that or homers or this, that, the other. Don't care. Amazing dudes, all four. So they all deserve every bit of accolades. They should all be. I hate like the Ford C. Frick, and it's one or the other, and this and that, and they're not in. All those guys. I mean, John Miller is in, but all those guys. And Dave is unreal. I don't even know when he sees his family. Basketball, football, the Giants. It's unreal. Unreal, his schedule. But super talented guys. So congratulations to those guys. We are all lucky around here to have those four guys. And again, John Miller's not in that shot, but we're lucky as hell to have those four guys calling Giants baseball. And you don't have to like Giants baseball. Just having those guys call a game, and I talk about all the time, the difference that broadcasters make. Let's just say there's a massive difference between the Giants and the broadcasts and how enjoyable they are, win or lose, and some of the other broadcasts around. That's all. I mean, those guys make it fun. So you could tell me I'm wrong, and that's cool. It's just my opinion. I love those guys. So new deals, a little broadcast microphone right there. I'm going to go out because there's a caboose that I've got to play. And then we got to leave pretty soon because we got to watch the tournament. Let me click out to the comment line real quick. And then I've got one more caboose that you're going to love. Let me hit some supers. Sorry, I haven't hit the supers yet. Hurlebird, you're crushing it. We appreciate you, bro. When did you send that? Was I crushing it like not all day or a little bit? Maybe I think I was crushing it on the Patriot stuff and on the plan stuff. I think that was pretty solid, but I could be wrong. Liver died. So that's the Friday show. We're going to do a Friday night show. If you missed yesterday, we're going to do Larry Krueger and I in the Krug show. You're probably subscribed, but go subscribe to Krug if you're not, if you're like one of the three people that aren't on YouTube. And make sure John Lund Unleashed and Bay Area Sports Collective, make sure you subscribe to all of us. But We're going to do a Friday night Giant show. It's not going to be bitter. We're not going to be angry. Don't care if somebody strikes out with the bases loaded. Not going to get mad. And we're going to be on the screen. It's going to be like a Manning cast. We're going to bring people in. And then his son, Kevin, who's brilliant with all this stuff. He's really the brain, like the, what is it? Why am I blanking on the show where it's like, behind the scenes? It's almost like the Roxanne movie, but The Wizard of Oz. And you got somebody behind the scenes pushing all the buttons. That's Kevin. Krug's awesome, but Kevin's behind the scenes doing it all. So he's going to put up a thing where we can actually see the Giants game, and then we're going to talk and we're going to drink beers and hang out. And it's going to be every Friday night. It's like, the Giants had an Orange Friday. We're going to do a Friday thing. So it's going to be cool. So we're very excited. No negativity in it, though. We're not going to, I'm not going to do that on Friday night. Not going to think about my Friday night so I can have my blood pressure go up on the Giants. Just have fun. So point is that John Holmes says, live and let die. Live and let die. That was the Axl Rose version. That was not the Beatles version. Live and let die. Live and let die with Fridays with Lund and Krug. Liver let die, though. Don't be confused. Liver let die. That's pretty good. That's going to be in the conversation. That's going to be in the conversation. Thanks, Hurley Bird. Thanks, John Holmes, my man. That's a great suggestion. That's going to go in the hopper. And this is my friend Dom, bottom of the pint. Ooh, that's solid too. Oh, now I got to throw these by Krug. Bottom of the pint with Kruger and Lund. I'm just letting these marinate and hit me. Liver, let die, bottom of the pint. Bottom of the pint's good. And the bottom of the pint, middle of the rotation, or middle of the lineup's coming out in the bottom of the pint. Sorry, that was kind of my poor John Miller. I like it. I like it a lot. I like all those. Okay. Good. I'm glad I got those in. Thank you so much. You can always make sure that your stuff goes to the front of the line if you hit us up on a super. Really, really appreciate it. Let's see. Krug will go off. You know what we should do as part of this whole thing? Hang on one second. Krug will go off. I guarantee it. What we should do is there should be a penalty if you go off. Because Krug and I have talked about this off the air a lot. Like, dude, we're not going to be pissed. We're not going to make this a negative, pissy show. There's too much of that out there. And he's like, yep. So there's got to be a penalty if you okay, almost like a swear jar where it's like, or maybe you have to take a shot of something or something like that. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to screenshot that because we've got to do that. There's got to be some kind of penalty if you get all pissy, and you can, but it's going to be like $5 in the swear jar or something like that. And it's going to apply to everybody. That's what we're going to do. Something like that. Yeah. Hi, Mark. Kevin is smart. Get dad to have a show with beer drinking. He doesn't have to pay for it. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. Who's trying to call me just now? Let's see. Yeah, not Beatles, Paul McCartney. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, my bad. Nate's right. I'm wrong. Let's see. Kevin is a miracle worker. That's funny. Bill King, legendary. Absolutely. I mean, think about all the great. This will take us forever if we go down this road, but we got to do this during another time. But I mean, the broadcasters we've had in the Bay. I've been all over the country. I don't think they're better anywhere. I mean, they're just great. Bill King, I mean, going down the line. I mean, Ken Korak's the most underrated guy, and I know that now they're in SAC, but Ken Korak, just criminally underrated. I mean, and such a good guy, too. So good. Oh, I know. Lee Hammer says what? See, I like that people say this. I mean, look, it doesn't. You should be able to say, look, I don't like the Dodgers, but Vin Scully was unbelievable. I mean, just seriously, unbelievable. Yeah. When his voice cracked, are you talking about when his voice cracked on that one? Oh, just incredible. You know what's funny is he hates those calls, but they're so freaking good. They're just so good. Like Papa hates the call on the blocked punt in Green Bay, where it was Willis blocks the punt, Hufanga picks it up and goes for a touchdown, and he wasn't feeling the greatest. Maybe sucking down that chicken broth that they have in Green Bay in the media area. But I think it's one of the best calls of all time, and his voice is totally out and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be like this perfect call every time to go down in history. It just doesn't. All right, you ready for this? Because we got to go watch basketball. Yeah, Korak is just criminally underrated. And talk about a great guy. Oh, my God, is he a great guy? I mean, just an incredible guy. But I understand. If a guy stinks, but he's an incredible guy, nobody cares. All right, let's see. Make it like Anchorman. That's incredible. Really? That's interesting. You think I'm going to be negative ahead of Krug? Now we're going to have to talk. Him and I are going to have to talk about this. There has to be a penalty. Like, if you want to go off, that's fine. You want to go off on a tangent, everything like that, you have to warn everyone. And then it's like a swear jar or a shot or something like that to be like, okay, I'm going to go off. And it's like you have to, I don't know what you have to do. Donate. I don't know. You have to do something. You can figure it out. See, I love this. So, bases loaded. Yaz and Chapman strike out. Krug, yeah, you're right. Bases loaded. 1 out in the 9th inning. Matt Chapman at the dish. Oh, bouncing ball to shortstop. Yeah, you're right. And it's a double play. The Mariners win the first series 3-0. They had opportunities. They sure did. And Krug just goes off. Got to tip the swear jar or something. It's going to have to be something. Swear jar. It's something. It's just going to have to be something. I don't know what it is, but it's going to have to be something. All right, let me get to this. Finally, the sweet. I know. I'm sorry. This is where we go off on tangents. It's not Posey's fault. I know what you said right there, and I got the wrong way. I know. All right. We've done random. So episode 93, Rank the Madness. 1 bracket tip, which is look at the numbers, look at the betting odds. 12 is favored over a 5 favored. Look at that. Lynch, we have a plan. We went over that. 𝐬𝐻 rumors from New England are based on a guy named Greg Bedard who said, I have a feeling in my bones. And it took off. More mocks. The guy that I want for the 49ers is probably not going to be there. Rodgers not going to be doing TV. Timberwolves have lost twice. The NBA bracket changes that the Lakers now would be the 6-3 matchup against the Warriors, which is nice. They beat Denver last night. The Timberwolves have lost 2 in a row. Celtics were sold for $6.1 billion. Hicks goes 5 and fly like he always does. New deals for the Giants broadcasters. And finally, we've already done random throughout the show. It's caboose pistol time, and is it me is the question. Now, look at this. Clear your minds. No bias. You're in a grocery store. You look in the frozen section, ice cream. Those drumsticks are really good. They have all sorts of supposedly healthy stuff. What's that company called? I don't know. I think Oprah promoted it, and then they took off, multi-billion-dollar company, but they have like ice cream sandwich, all this stuff. So you're thinking, dude, healthy. And my whole thing is when you eat something, just look, if you're going to eat ice cream, eat ice cream. Don't go keto, this, that, and the other, whatever. It's just like, anyway, that's a totally different story. So I'm in the grocery store yesterday. Clear mind. I'm not thinking one way or the other. And maybe this, again, it says right there, is it me? Is this me? Or if you saw this, and maybe, I'm sure you have seen these, but you didn't think, and maybe, again, I'll take it. If you guys are like, you're a dirty-minded old man, I'll take it. But I looked in there, and it just struck me. And so here I am looking around, making sure nobody's looking. And, of course, as I take a picture of these things, this woman and her 2 children come around the corner, and they're looking at me like, what are you taking a picture of in the ice cream stuff? Like, what are you doing? In the freezer aisle. What's so that you have to take a picture? And so, of course, the kids walk around like something's there. Like, what is it, mommy? What's he taking a picture of? I mean, they didn't say that, but they were kind of like looking like if he's taking a picture, like when you see someone take a picture of someone and it's like, well, that person must be famous because they're taking a picture. So the kids come right around the corner, like bat out of hell, like nowhere. And they're looking in there like, is there a bat in there? Did a dog slip in there? Like what is so intriguing that this man has to take a picture of? All right. I've set it up enough. Is that me? Like I said in the chalkboard, is that me? Not as much the pink and blue one, but the yellow and the red one. Like, is that me? Or is that like cherry lemon trolley gummy pops? Is that me? And here's the thing. You see how it goes wang, 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 like they make that impression like the thing is moving or something. Like that looks, I'm sorry. I know it's phallic for number 1, but number 2, like the movement of it. Like are those things really bent like that? Because I don't think they are. And then look at next to it. I mean, is it just me? Or number 1, just the big picture is suggestive? And then see the 2 to the right there? If those aren't penises, I'm sorry. I don't know what is. Like the one looks very suggestive, like you're getting aroused and you're going dong, 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 dong. And then the 2 next to it, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not endowed like that clearly, but it's like somebody made that box. And somebody said, yeah, I think that's what we're going for. Good job, Bob. Like I always talk about how there's a big mahogany table and there's a big boss and a marketing company comes up with a way to market them. That's going to be your box. And the guy goes, I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, no one in that company, no one around the big mahogany table was thinking to themselves, is no one else thinking this is incredibly suggestive? Like the fact that the basically the popsicle is getting aroused, and then the two popsicles around it, like those don't look like something. Those don't look like dildos or something. I mean, really? Like and again, I'm going to take this off the board for a minute. See at the bottom where it says, "Is it me, Caboose? Is it me?" Like, is it me, or is that? Come on, or is it just I have a dirty mind and I need to grow up, and I'm very sophomoric? If you think the latter, then you can say it. It's not going to bother me. But I mean, I saw that yesterday, and I think it was the first time I saw him, but it was really the first time I certainly noticed it. But it was so much that like the popsicle thing had the, doing, 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 doing. I mean, that's what it basically is suggesting, that all of a sudden it's like, ooh, I'm aroused. And then the two ones next to it are like, I think I've seen that in my ex-wife's drawer. Like, just kidding. I told the story how they fell out during a move one time. But I mean, that's what they look like. The one looks like it's aroused, the big popsicle, and the other two look like they're adult toys. Is it me? Or is that, come on? And so the kids are looking into the freezer. The kids are like, what is in there? And then the mom looks at me like, I know what you're taking a picture of, you perv. What's wrong with you? Believe me, I was quickly out of there. It's like, oh no. And I had my basket too, and my basket of stuff. And I'm sitting there at the checkout counter looking around going, I please don't make her come up here. Please don't let her come up here. I do not want to make eye contact with her again, because she knew what I was doing. Like, like Beavis and Butthead taking a picture of the boner popsicles and the adult toys on the box. That can't just be me. I'm sorry. If you say it is, then it is. But that's extremely suggestive. Am I not? Like, I would never buy those. No chance. I don't know. Is it me? That's all I'm asking. Caboose, is it me? Or is it like, come on, man? Because I cannot believe for 1 second that company didn't know exactly what they're doing. Hey, Bob, look what we did with the gummy pops. People are going to buy these. Could be wrong. Could be wrong. Fast times at Ridgemont High. Two things can be true. So, yeah, it's me, but they are weird. Yeah, Safeway. Those were at Safeway. I was in the Safeway aisle, and it wouldn't be nearly as funny of a story if the two kids weren't looking in there going, what is that? What is he taking a picture of, Mommy? And then she just looked at me like, perv. And then, of course, she bought him. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. She might have frozen them. Just not. Yeah, that's not right. What did I say? LL Cool Jam. Not bad. Not bad. Yeah, I'm gonna throw all these against the wall. Yeah, if my wife is watching, watch our freezer, because we have one of the outside freezer they always tell you about. She's got all the contraptions in there to make her feel better. But at the bottom, all it is popsicles. My stepson Cameron can eat about 18 popsicles in one sitting. I should just buy those to see if he even eats those. Like, he's in 7th grade. Like, right away, he'd look at that box and go, very suggestive. Very suggestive. That's all I'm saying. All right. We have got to get to college basketball, man. High Point, Purdue. I took High Point. Thank you very much. I took High Point. Telling you. The Krug Lund social show. I like it. Let's see. Bar Talk. Lazy Hour. That's not bad. Because remember, Ray and Greg and Kelly Johnson did a thing called the Happy Hour on NBC that lasted like a day and a half, because they told Greg, hey, you can curse and you can drink. And then after a couple of days, the higher ups got a hold of that tape and went, no cursing, no drinking. It was like, well, what fun is this? It's no good. That was it. All right. Anything else on that? Anything else? Those were weird. No, we're not going to, unless they're a major sponsor, then they can call our show whatever they want. A little bit of both. Okay. I'll take a little bit of both. Oops, sorry. I'll take a little bit of both. I'm just saying, if you saw those, now you're going to see them. You're going to see them. Report back to me. You're going to see those in the supermarket now, and you're going to go, oh, man. That's what the Caboose pistol is. Like, that's how you end the show, right? That's it. I dated a girl he called Carrot Lady. No, I didn't buy any, but I should. And then you know what I should do? I should just set them in the freezer and go, what do you think of these? I haven't even texted my wife that yet. You know what? Should I? Let me text it, because I have the picture on my phone. How creepy is that? That is really creepy. Let me look at all these people texting me. Jeez. Wife. Let me just text these. Let's text this to her and see what she says. Real quick. She's not pervy like me, or she's not a guy. So I'm gonna just send her this with no comment whatsoever and see what she says. Okay. All right, we got to get to basketball. You do too. You don't have time for the sophomore nature of the show today. El Pardo. Yeah, I have been. Is it Al Pardo? What's the guy's name? El Pardo. Oh, I see what you're saying there. Sorry, Al Pardo was the announcer guy. Juan. Yeah, when my parents were not real happy with me, that's what my dad would call me. Juan. Like it was like, ooh. Everybody gets called a certain thing when they know that things are not good, and that was me. One last shot. That's just weird. Just with the like lingering effect on that whole thing, like that whole thing on the big popsicle, and then the other two look like adult toys. I mean, that's just wild. But anyway, okay. Great stuff. If you missed anything on the show today, remember, you can always go back. I'm going to post the chapters a little bit later on in the show. Make sure that you check those out. We had a great show today. A lot of good stuff was going on. Do remember, please, this is our main sponsor, 𝐟𝐸𝐵𝐿, Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center. Dr. 𝐟𝐸𝐵𝐿, I was in there yesterday, and I told you, low T, it's a thing. Like, you're like, I'm just tired. I'm just lethargic. I can't lose weight. It's, I'm irritable. It's not, it's no big deal. It's called low T. It's low testosterone. They're going to give you a quick blood test. They're going to determine how much you need. They're going to do a quick procedure on you. It's not just willy-nilly. Like, let's just throw a few in there. This is a doctor, people. This is a doctor. You know what he told me yesterday, by the way? I got to get this story across. This is a great story. Don't go anywhere. The great story. So Dr. 𝐟𝐸𝐵𝐿 is one of the first people in the entire state of California to use this version of the low T. This is no. I got another story. It's different. It's not low T. I got another one. But anyway, I'm using the low T. Low testosterone. I've never felt better. So what you want to do is you want to click on that QR code right there. And that's going to get you an appointment. So you go in, it's going to take you right to the website. You can make an appointment. No strings attached. He's not going to give you the hard sell. Just tell him, hey, I heard on Lund's show that you do the stuff with the low testosterone. What is that all about? He's awesome. The guy is absolutely great. Now, the story I was going to tell you about Bartolo Colon, and I'll keep that QR code up there because you're going to want to know this. So I've told you about my wife. She does the stem cell treatments. She did her shoulder. She did her elbow. Yesterday, she did her foot. She said in the video that I played for you, oh, next week I'm doing my foot. She did it yesterday. So she'll be feeling better, but a lot less ice bags, a lot less pain. It's been absolutely great. She did the shoulder and the elbow about a month ago. She did her foot yesterday. And Dr. 𝐟𝐸𝐿 was telling her a story about he was one of the first people in the entire state of California to get trained to do the stem cell treatments. And what he was telling my wife yesterday was he actually, and I didn't know this, he never told me this, he's a huge sports fan, and he did stem cell on Bartolo Colon. And Bartolo Colon, and I'm not saying this is alone, there's a lot of different things that go into it, but he was having some issues and some pain. Dr. 𝐟𝐸𝐿 did stem cell treatments on Bartolo Colon, and Bartolo Colon resumed his career for a number of years. He did a number of different things. I'm not saying it was Dr. 𝐟𝐸𝐿 alone, but Dr. 𝐟𝐸𝐿, as one of the first people in the entire state of California to use stem cell treatments for pain, did it on Bartolo Colon. Bartolo Colon pitched I think it was 5 more years in the league, Dr. 𝐟𝐸𝐿 said. So anyway, if it's good enough for Bartolo Colon, people, it is absolutely good enough for you. So make that appointment right now. You have a lot of pain? Stem cell treatments. Check them out. And Dr. 𝐟𝐸𝐿 was one of the first in the entire state of California to do them. So he does it the best. He's awesome. So low T treatments, stem cell treatments. Click on that QR code right now. And Dr. 𝐟𝐸𝐿 is absolutely awesome. It's 𝐟𝐸𝐿, Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center. 𝐟𝐸𝐿, Cosmetic Surgery and Laser. Check them out on the web right now, or just hit that QR code and make that appointment. Tell them I sent you over there, whether it be the stem cell treatments, as I just told you, he was one of the first in the state, did them on Bartolo Colon. I've told you my wife has done them. So check them out right now. And if low T is giving you trouble, 𝐟𝐸𝐿, Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center. Great sponsors of the show. All right, everybody's going to watch the NCAA tournament. I am as well. Let me double check that nothing is left. We're done talking about those pops. Look, if they wanted to sponsor the show, Miguel, I would absolutely 100% be like, yeah, I'm fine with it. Trolley pops. Let's see. Okay, everybody's giving me basketball scores. I gotta go, man. I gotta check what's going on here. Thanks, Ned. I appreciate it. Yeah, just be going 90 different directions. I gotta get with it here. But I did I stayed on it. I am going to at some point get a thing to cross off these. Don Pardo. That's who I was thinking of. Thank you. It's Don Pardo. Yeah, Don Pardo. Yeah, SNL. Absolutely great stuff. I'll just do this without without any comment. I think that'll do it. All right. I'll end it with that. Cheers, everybody. Have a tremendous first Thursday of the NCAA tournament. May all your teams win on buzzer beaters and everybody covers, and your bracket is awesome tomorrow, and that's what you're going to tell me about. That is a Thursday edition of the program. Please remember, and thank you first before I say please remember, thank you for watching on Instagram. Thank you at John Lund Radio on X. Remember, on YouTube, it's John Lund Unleashed. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that thumbs up, please. That helps the algorithm. That means you liked it, and they like that, and then they suggest it to other people. And make sure you subscribe and keep those alerts on. John Lund Unleashed. I'm doing a blog post later on what's going on with John Lynch's plan, which I've told you about. I'm going to write about that as well with those drafts that I showed you. So that's going to be at johnlundunleashed.com. I'll release a video with that later, so make sure those alerts are on. Hit us up on Bay Area Sports Collective on YouTube. Thanks for watching on LinkedIn. Hopefully your very important business I did not intrude on. Watch us on Facebook as well, John Lund Unleashed on Facebook, and you can friend me on that, or you can join the page. That would be absolutely amazing. I think we have covered everything. Thank you. Look at all these nice things that people are saying at the bottom. And by the way, we had lots of comments yesterday on what we should call the show with Krug and I, which is going to happen on Friday nights, and we're going to be really nice. And people brought up a great point. You guys aren't going to be able to stay in character. You're going to rip them. So we got to come up with an idea. So if you have an idea of how we can do that, whether that's a swear jar, whether that's a shot, whether that's, something's got to do it. But that's what we're going to do. So anyway, great stuff. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Have a great Thursday. Enjoy the games. I'm sorry I've been intruding because I'm going over and you're like, dude, I want to watch the games. So go watch the games. We'll talk again tomorrow. Have a wonderful Thursday. Happy March.
Thanks for hanging out with John Lund Unleashed. We'll try to be better next time, though I wouldn't hold my breath. Please like and subscribe on the John Lund Unleashed Pod YouTube channel. Watch live shows weekdays at 8 a.m. on YouTube, Instagram, and X. And make sure to have your alerts on for shows throughout the day or night. All things Lund can be found at johnlundunleashed.com. johnlundunleashed.com.
Goodbye!